You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Dead up perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 5th part of What If Deku Enters High School DXD. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Pleiades 1754 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. And with that, the four ran for the duplicate UA, leaving Ravel behind, who just realized something. Wait, did she just call me fried chicken? Boom. Up on the school roof, Rias shot several volleys of her destructive power while Akino supported her with bolts of lightning and iron sand constructs. Riser countered most of their attacks, though he got stabbed with a few spikes and some parts of his body disintegrated. However, it ultimately did not matter as all damage done to him was quickly healed by his regeneration. He then attempted to go on the offensive, but then Asia's vines burst from below the roof to ensnare him. Riser quickly burnt off the vines and resumed his attack, sending a large fireball in the girl's way, but Asia formed a thick wall of vines to shield everyone, and she used the remaining intact vines to trap Riser again. And Akino quickly took the moment to form the iron sand into spears to impale Riser from all sides before following up with a lightning attack to electrocute Riser. Riser once again healed from the damage as he scorched the vine snare, but even so, he was starting to get frustrated by how long his opponents managed to last against him. That meddlesome bishop. Oh, what's this? Are you getting tired? Maybe you should just give up, Rias taunted. Even so, she was trying to hide the fact that she and Akino were running low on mana. Aren't we getting cocky, darling? Riser responded. Riser must admit, he thought your pride would cause you to come face me without any backup. Yet you proved me wrong. However, I presume the rest of your servants are on their way. Since your team took their sweet time defeating my servants, Riser thinks it's only fitting that he does the same to yours, one in particular. Don't get ahead of yourself, Rias told him in defiance. You'll have to go through me before you get to them. She then shot a beam of her destructive powers at him and disintegrated Riser's right arm. Riser chuckled as fire ignited from the stump of his right arm before it reformed into said arm. Resign, you're about to be mated. I can't help but anticipate your moves. Riser knows you better than you think he does. Checkmate, my love. F off, Riser, Rias shouted with a glare as she stepped forward. You know nothing if you think I'll give up. Try as you might, you will not intimidate me. I am a king, I am ready for war. You leave me no choice. Then Riser unfolded his flaming wings and took off into the air, forming a large magic circle of the Phoenix family in his hand. Roar! Riser sent a large stream of fire in the form of a bird at Rias, Akino, and Asia, bigger than anything he's thrown out so far. The girls all raised a magical barrier, with Akino even gathering all her iron sand to form an iron wall. But Riser's attack was unlike anything before. Luckily, their defense held strong and no one was harmed, but it severely drained their stamina and magic. The iron wall was reduced to a partially molten slab of metal, still glowing red from the intense heat. Asia seemed to have lost consciousness as Akino held her in her arms. She's all right. She most likely collapsed from the shock of Riser's attack, Rias observed. Unfortunately, even though Asia was unharmed, she was still out of commission. Akino, send her back to the base. Right, Akino cast a magic circle to warp Asia away from the battlefield. She then tried using electromagnetism to manipulate the remainder of her iron wall. But the heat had caused the iron to become insulated against electricity. She then tried making more iron sand, but she only managed to make only a few grams. Darn, I should have gotten more iron in my diet. So much for that annoying bishop. Riser will put her in her place soon enough, Riser grinned smugly. Oh, Rias. Riser has stopped your bishop's twilight healing. You and your queen barely have any magical power left yourselves. Why not admit defeat? Riser won't think any less of you. Rias's response was a scream of rage and frustration, pouring everything she had into one destructive blast that she shot at Riser, vaporizing everything above his midsection. However, it didn't take long for Riser's body to regenerate as good as new, with a smug grin across his face. Rias gritted her teeth as she struggled to stand, her stamina drained from using so much of her power. Her clothes were charred and torn from Riser's attacks, with one breast being exposed, and sweat poured down her face. Even so, Rias refused to show weakness to Riser. "I've said this once, and I will say it again. The man I want to marry is not you." She grinned proudly. Riser's face twitched and twisted into a scowl. "Is that so? Then Riser has no choice but to put you down once and for all. Behold, the purifying flame of the almighty phoenix." Riser created one single giant fireball over his head, the heat of which Rias and Aquino could still feel despite being a good distance away. With a shout, Riser threw the fireball full force at Rias and Aquino. Aquino tried putting up a barrier, but Rias knew there was no way they could stop or dodge that attack in their current state. As the inferno came closer, Rias and Aquino closed their eyes to brace for impact. However, the scorching blaze never hit them. As they opened their eyes, they saw the back of Izuku, with his red dragon wings out. On his left arm was the boosted gear, its green gem glowing brightly. His right arm held Homurasaki toward the flames, which also glowed green as it swallowed up all the fire, heat, and embers. Rias blinked slowly. "Izuku?" she muttered in disbelief. The boy turned to meet her with a kind smile. "Sorry, we're late, Buchu. But it's okay. We're here now." Izuku had arrived to save Rias' Gremory. Rias stared in silence, taking in the sight before her. Right now, he seemed completely different. In some way, it reminded her of All Might's debut video. Then, Yumi and Kaneko, the latter carrying Itsuka in her arms, came flying in. "We're here, at your service, milady," Yumi greeted. "Here to serve fried chicken," Kaneko said. "Is Asia okay?" Itsuka asked. "Don't worry, she's resting back at the base," Aquino reassured. "Buchu, Aquino, are you okay?" Izuku asked. "Fine mostly, other than the fact that we use too much of our magic, and are severely drained as a result," Aquino said. "We were a bit careless. If I had only brought Asia with me like I originally planned, I believe I might have been retired already or worse. Sorry, guys," Rias apologized. "It's fine," Itsuka said, changing into her Aries form. She then covered Aquino and Rias in a blanket of pink wool, helping them regain their stamina and heal minor wounds. Izuku smiled. "We're here now. Just relax and hang back," he then glared up at Riser. "We'll deal with him." Izuku, Yumi, Kaneko, and Itsuka stood on the roof as Riser continued to hover in the air. Riser looked bewildered that the pawn managed to stop his fire so easily, but he regained his composure as he folded his arms. "Riser must admit, I'm impressed that you managed to blow away his flame like that. Though I feel the compliment should be directed towards that sword you wield," Riser said. The way he looked at the Team Gremory members made it clear he saw them as no threat, like insects. He then turned to Rias. "Your servants seem keen on fighting me, dear," which is fine since Riser did consider paying them back for what they did to his servants. "So feel free to watch, Rias, as Riser burns them all to ashes." "Go ahead and try," Izuku challenged as he held Homurasaki tight. Boost. Dress form, Sagittarius. Itsuka's outfit changed into a light green tailcoat that left her shoulders, upper back, and cleavage bare with detached sleeves, worn over a white leotard. On her legs were a pair of green thigh-high boots with a golden trim. Her hair was styled into a normal ponytail contrasting her typical side ponytail. Lastly, she held a golden ornate bow in her hand. "Riser will enjoy this." Riser then sent out a wave of flames at Team Gremory. Yumi stepped forward, and with a swing of flame delete, the fire was frozen in ice. "That was just a warm-up, pun not intended," Riser followed up by sending another wave of flames at Yumi. She tried to freeze this attack as well, but it was hotter than the first one, preventing her from freezing it. Luckily, she managed to dodge with only her uniform being slightly charred. "If you like that one, then here, have some more." Riser sent out another strong wave of flames, but this time Izuku stepped up, with the Homurasaki drawn. Even at a distance away, the heat was somewhat intense, but Izuku didn't stop as he raised the Homurasaki, and sliced right through the inferno. He pressed onward, flapping his wings as he flew up toward Riser. As Izuku rushed towards him, Riser only spread his arms in victory. "Come on, trash. Nothing you do can hurt me." Slice. Blood flew in the air. Rias and Akino watched wide-eyed in shock. Izuku had diagonally slashed Riser from his right hip up to his left shoulder. "Gah!" Riser cried out in pain as he stubbed backward a bit. He held his bleeding wound, gritting his teeth in both anger and pain. "You filthy low-life," Riser growled with a snarl, still feeling the pain of the slash. "What did you do to me?" "Nothing," Izuku answered. "It's just that this sword also has the power to cancel out flames, including the ones you use to regenerate. That's one injury you won't be healing from." As Riser continued to snarl in anger, he was left blinded to 2 arrows fired at him by Itsuka. However, they missed him completely. "Your aim must be poor if you couldn't hit Riser while he was distracted," Riser taunted. "Oh, but what if I wasn't trying to hit you?" Itsuka retorted. "Chain arrows." Then, the arrows doubled back, expanding into a pair of energy chains that wrapped themselves around Riser. Then, Kaneko pulled on one end of the chains to drag Riser down, causing him to crash onto the roof. As Riser looked up, he saw Kaneko crashing down upon him with her fist ready. She landed a solid blow on his gut, which while he could heal from, still made him cough blood. The thought of these mere low-class devils and one human pushing him to the edge like this really infuriated Riser as he let out a massive conflagration, sending out a shockwave that knocked all his enemies back. Riser flew back into the air with his entire body ablaze. "Enough," he growled. "Riser is done playing games." Riser then shaped his flames into a massive phoenix. Itsuka fired 3 arrows at Riser, but he sent forward his firebird, burning up the arrows as it continued toward Kaneko and Itsuka. Kaneko put up a shield, but the firebird broke through the shield without much difficulty. Fortunately, both girls barely managed to dodge with a few burns as a result. He then aimed the same attack at Yumi, who created 2 flame delete swords to counter the attack. But even then, it wasn't enough as some of the infernos persisted to singe Yumi, also leaving her with a few burns and struggling to stand, forcing her to use her swords for support. Last was Izuku, on whom Riser sixed an even bigger firebird. Izuku held the Homurasaki to devour the flames, but while he was doing so, Riser made his move, suddenly appearing before Izuku and grabbing him by the neck in a chokehold, making him drop the Homurasaki. "I've had enough of you. Time to die." Swinging his arm out, he threw Izuku over the edge of the top of the roof. However, Izuku grabbed his arm when he let go so that he could bring him down with him, shocking Riser and making him also fall over. But before he and Izuku could hit the side of the roof, Riser opened his flaming wings and stopped himself from falling. He then moved outwards and away from the roof, hovering towards an open court. Izuku tried his best to keep a grip on his right arm, but could feel his hand slipping. Riser took the opportunity to wrench his arm free and blasted Izuku with a fireball. Izuku screamed from the agony of the searing heat as he was sent crashing down to the ground. As Izuku was recovering from the impact with the ground, Riser came swooping down and headbutted him before continuing to beat him. "Stop it," Rias begged Riser, tears streaming down her face, but to no response. She wasn't just worried for her pawn, she was scared. "Rias, you have to stay strong," Akino said. "But, Izuku, he..." Riser grabbed Izuku by the neck and lifted him off the ground. "Now I'm pissed. You're just a pathetic, lowly servant. You and your friends don't even have the right to challenge Riser Fenix." Despite the arrogant smirk on his face, his eyes carried a serious look to them. His body and clothes looked worn down and his wings had slightly reduced in size. "I will now send you to hell where you belong, and Riser will make it hurt. Any deaths that occur during a raiding game are considered accidents anyway." "Riser, please stop. Let him go," Rias begged. The Fenix looked to Rias. "You know there's only one way to change Riser's mind, my dear. Surrender, and this can all be over." "Well, my beloved, what's it going to be?" Before she could answer, Izuku, with gritted teeth, yelled out. "Don't listen to him, Rias." He struggled to speak with his windpipe being tightly crushed, though he continued to glare at Riser. "Ha, do you have a death wish, pawn? Face it, it's over." Rias looked worried for Izuku, but then a hand patted her from the back. Itsuka, who was starting to get up along with Kaneko and Yumi, gave her a reassuring smile. It's okay. After all, Midoriya has a plan. Riser believes it's time to end this pathetic charade, Riser declared as he prepared to finish off Izuku. I'm not done. If you're gonna put out a fire, well, you're gonna need water. Izuku dug into a bag at his side and pulled out an object. Riser wasn't able to see what it was, but Rias did. It was the bottle of holy water. Back before they arrived at the school building, Izuku had asked Itsuka to pass the holy items to him, and with the bag, he could carry them without being adversely affected. I won't stop until I save Rias from you. Transfer. As Izuku brought his arm back, the boosted gear glowed green as the water in the bottle glowed bright gold. Smash. Swinging his arm in an outwards arch, Izuku's hand smacked into the right side of Riser's head, smashing the bottle of holy water all over his head and face. The impact caused it to shatter on impact, and the water to disperse everywhere. Yuga! Riser screamed out in agony. His grip on Izuku's neck was released to give himself some distance, as the blond man grabbed his face with both his hands. He howled under the painful effects of the holy water, as parts of his face had major burns and had steam coming off it. Look at Riser, Yumi said. The holy water is draining his mental and physical strength, Akino observed. Not even the Marquis of the House of Phoenix can rise from the ashes when his mind's under this kind of attack, Rias noted. She then realized Izuku's plan to get Riser as close as possible in order to use the holy water on him. Her eyes began watering again, except this time, it was in happiness. Izuku, you little suicidal genius. The steam stopped, leaving Riser's body in a weakened and worn-out state. He tried throwing a fireball at Izuku, but he flew to dodge it. No, stop it, don't. This engagement's important to the future of all devils, you fool. A mere servant like you has no business getting involved in the affairs of your betters, he ranted. It was a miracle he was even still standing. Don't you understand? I don't care, Izuku fired back. Riser tried throwing a fist at Izuku, but he caught it in his hands before grabbing onto Riser's arm to flip him over. If it wasn't obvious from the beginning, then it was now. Thanks to the holy water, Riser was losing. Rias, she's the only thing that matters to me right now, and the fact that you'd force her to be with you when she obviously hates you. Well, that's reason enough for me to take you out. Izuku then took hold of Asia's old cross, wrapping it around his boosted gear. I'll only say this once, so listen good. Riser, Izuku glared, readying another punch as green energy surrounded his body. Never make Rias cry again, Dragon Smash. Izuku landed a strong punch on Riser's abdomen, causing him to cough up blood before he was sent flying back into a wall, shattering it upon impact. As Izuku followed Riser to where he crashed, he could see Riser struggling to stand. Bastard, that was all Riser could say before he lost consciousness and collapsed, disappearing in a flash of light. Lord Riser Phoenix, the king, retired. Lady Ria's Gremory is the winner of the game. Ah! No longer needing the cross, Izuku dropped it with a painful scream. He wasn't sure if it was exhaustion or something to do with the cross, but his head was getting fuzzy and he felt weak in the legs. Boing! Rather than the hard ground, his head landed on two soft pillows, which belonged to one Ria's Gremory as she wrapped him into a hug. Izuku, my adorable little Izuku, you just saved my life, thank you, she said, tears of joy welling down her face. Despite blushing hard from his head being pressed into Rias's bosom, he smiled and returned the hug as he heard his teammates, including Asia, cheering as they came closer. Meanwhile, Ravel Phoenix watched from nearby as she flew on her own fiery wings. No way, she whispered to herself. She couldn't believe that her brother lost. Well, she thought it might happen sooner or later, possibly against one of the rating game champions, but to a team of rookies in their first rating game, was the furthest from her expectations. Then her eyes focused on Izuku, the one who defeated Riser. She hated to admit it, but his strategy was impressive. She couldn't believe that the pawn, rather than Rias herself, was their main strategist. She then recalled something. Rias was attending UA, the most prestigious hero school in Japan. Does that mean the Welsh dragon is going to be a hero someday? Suddenly, many stories of her childhood, bedtime stories and fairy tales that featured brave heroes, came back to her mind at once. She could see the image of Izuku as the hero in all those stories. Fighting the blush that she had, Ravel tried to push those thoughts aside. She had some business to take care of, check on her brother, and then speak with her mother. Soon, the orc was back in their real clubroom. On the sofa, Rias sat as close to Izuku as she could. Ijiro, Mina, and Hisashi were waiting for them, congratulating them on their victory. Good thing that Gambit paid off. Well done, Izuku, Yumi smiled, holding the homurasaki which she retrieved on her way. Yeah, just happy it turned out nicely, Izuku admitted, looking up at Yumi. In any case, looks like our rating games gathered up quite a view count. The highest one since the first, Rias smiled. There's already a whole lot of feedback from the noble families who were amazed by our performance. You even got a nickname? Kaneko said with a smile, contrasting the usual stoic look she had, which was quite cute, to be honest. Red Hero Dragon, you've earned it. She then gave him a thumbs up. Red Hero? Izuku chuckled sheepishly. Sounds real manly. Midoriya, way to go, Ijiro cheered. Well done, Izuku. You've not only defended the honor of your master, but have also made your father real proud, Hisashi said, holding the homurasaki which he got back from Yumi in one hand while having his other hand on his son's shoulder. Izuku turned over to Asia, who was also smiling. You were amazing out there. Hey, it was a team effort, Asia, Itsuka smiled. We all had a hand in beating Riser and his team. Besides, you helped Rias and Akino last long against Riser. That was a major contribution if you ask me. Kendo's right. We're all proud of you, Asia. Izuku nodded, causing Asia to smile back. Right, Asia nodded. Then, the door to the clubroom opened up, and two separate groups walked inside. It was the Citri peerage, followed by the Asteroth peerage. Sona, Leisha. I take it you were pleased by the outcome? Rias smiled. Yes. You all pulled off quite a show, especially your pawn, Midoriya, Sona said, smiling back. Imagine, a devil who would willingly touch holy objects just to gain an advantage over his opponents. That was incredibly risky, yet amazing, Leisha also smiled. Izuku looked up to see Chacha smiling at him while blushing. You were awesome. Yeah, you should see what they're saying about you in the Undernet forums, Saji added. Undernet? Izuku asked. The Underworld's internet, Rias clarified. The Underworld has internet? Earth has progressed far, Sona replied. The humans have their internet, so why shouldn't we? We have my uncle, Lord Beelzebub, to thank for that. He's very interested in things humans are creating nowadays, Leisha added. Anyway, I think Rias's first victory in a rating game is a special occasion. How about a movie night to celebrate? Sounds good, a new voice suddenly said. It's been a long time since I saw a movie that was made in the human world. Leisha's eyes widened in surprise at the sound of the adult male voice. It wasn't just her. Everyone's eyes were drawn to the voice. Standing in the open space of the room under a dimming magic circle was a handsome man in his early 20s with short shoulder-length crimson hair and cyan eyes, making him strongly resemble Rias. He was dressed in an elaborate silver and gray robe with large and elaborate gold spalders that stretched out like a set of 8 wings. Standing at his side was Graphia, who stood by impassively as ever. Serzeches, Rias gasped. What are you doing here? She stuttered, a look of embarrassment appearing on her face. Hey, Rias, the man, Rias's brother, winked. The other devils in the vicinity quickly remembered themselves and got down on one knee and bowed their heads in respect, Hisashi doing the same. Izuku, Asia, Itsuka, Ijiro, and Mina, on the other hand, looked around confused before realizing they should do the same, quickly following through. There is no need for that. I did not come as the Devil King tonight, the man smiled kindly, raising his hand. Everyone stood up at his words. This is Butchu's brother, Izuku thought to himself, looking at the man as his face paled slightly. This is the Devil King, Asia thought to herself as she stared at the man. I didn't expect Lord Lucifer to grace us with his presence. To what do we owe such pleasure to? Hisashi asked. Ah, Cinder, it's been a while, Lord Lucifer smiled as he shook hands with Hisashi. As for my reason, it's simple, really. I'm here as a big brother who's come to support his younger sister. He then turned to Rias. Oh, Ria, how cold you've become. But you can't just, Rias groaned as she held her head. She's all flustered, Izuku thought. So, this is the Red Dragon Emperor I've heard so much about. Rias's brother smiled at Izuku, who visibly flinched. Yes, sir. My name's Izukumidoriya, he stuttered. Please, don't be scared. Rias's brother extended a hand in friendship. Nice to meet you. Sir Zech's Lucifer, formerly known as Sir Zech's Gremory, one of the 4 Satans of the underworld and Rias's older brother, at your service. Right. Pleasure to meet you. Izuku shook Sir Zech's hand. He's a lot friendlier than I was expecting. The pleasure is all mine, Sir Zech said, retracting his hand. I can see the resemblance. I was surprised when Grafia told me that Cinder was present during that meeting with Rias and Riser. But now I see why. I hope you don't mind that I gave Rias and her team some additional help, Hisashi said. Not at all. I think it's thanks to your help that the game turned out to be as interesting as it was, Sir Zech assured. Marquis and Lady Fenix were very displeased with the results of the rating game, but due to the arrangement of the wager, they had no other choice but to call off the engagement, Grafia said. You're a free woman now, milady. Give my sincerest apologies to them, Rias nodded, giving a relaxed sigh. I know they meant well, but their third son just wasn't the man I was looking for. On that note, Marquis Fenix actually wanted to thank you, Red Hero Dragon, Sir Zech informed. Huh? In his exact words, he had a bad habit of overestimating the abilities of our family, so I'm sure he learned quite the lesson from the rating game. If he has learned that the Phoenix is not absolute, that would be enough. So I'm sure he'd be satisfied with his son learning some humility. Is Riser okay? Even though Riser was a huge prick, Izuku would have felt guilty if he ended up leaving the guy crippled. No need to worry about Riser, Sir Zech has replied. It'll take more than enhanced holy water to take down a phoenix. Izuku sighed in relief, relieved to hear that. Very good. Now then, Grafia bowed before turning to Sir Zech's. My lord, it's time for us to depart. But Grafia, can't we stay at least for a little bit? Sir Zech practically whined, a display unbecoming of a devil king. The maid frowned as she reached up and pinched his cheek, pulling it hard. Oh, ow, 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 that hurts. Now, my lord, Grafia demanded, and Sir Zech had no other choice but to comply as the magic circle glowed again and teleported both Sir Zech and Grafia away. Did the Devil King just get told what to do by his maid? Mina asked, earning a few laughs. And thus, the night of celebration began. Hisashi had to leave early, so it was just the teens who stayed. Leisha had brought movies in many genres. During one of the horror movies, Asia got scared and clung to Izuku, much to his surprise when she did so. Even so, everyone enjoyed a good time. Eventually, it became time for everyone to go home. Izuku volunteered for cleanup duty, and Rias did the same. As they were almost done cleaning, Izuku and Rias ended up reaching for the same piece of trash, which made things a bit awkward as the room turned silent. The two looked away from each other, not knowing what to say next before they spoke up. Izukubichu. They were both caught off guard by how they called out to each other at the same time and fidgeted a bit in embarrassment. Why you first? Izuku stuttered. I just wanted to thank you again, Rias said after taking a big breath. As she continued talking, she gazed out the window. For a long time, I've been burdened by my engagement to Riser. I thought I was never going to have free reign over my life, always a prisoner of my heritage. She then let out joyful tears as she turned a beautiful smile toward Izuku. Now things changed. All thanks to you. No longer engaged to Riser, I'm free to live the way I want. You saved me. I'll always save you, Izuku replied, smiling. I'm your pawn, after all. It's my job, right? Of course, even if I was still a normal human, I would. He was about to continue when Rias suddenly planted her lips onto his. His eyes widened into big white circles and his whole head became burning red as he felt her delicate lips against his. As Rias brought her body closer to his, Izuku gradually got used to the feeling of kissing Rias and he began returning the kiss. Boo-boo-choo, he muttered as they broke away. That was my first kiss. It's a bit of a monumental moment for a young woman, isn't it? Rias said. I guess it kinda is. Huh? Izuku said. Wait, that was your first kiss? I hope I didn't mess it up. Well, since it is my first, I guess I have no way of knowing, do I? Rias replied in a coy manner. I liked it, though. "Oh, good to know," Izuku said. Then, the door opened to reveal Sona and Leisha. "Sona, Leisha, what are you two doing here?" Rias asked. "Nothing much. Just wanted to say a few words of thanks to Midoriya," Sona said. "Me?" Izuku pointed at himself. "Yes, you helped Rias out of that engagement, which we've personally been wanting to help her out of as well, but couldn't find a way to do so," Sona replied. "And I have another reason, for helping Cha-Cha out of her depression," Leisha added. "None of us in my peerage could bring her back to her normal self after her brother figure passed away. Yet, you managed it just by being yourself. As her master, I am grateful." "Oh, it was no trouble. I just did what any decent person would do," Izuku responded. "You truly are a kind soul. No wonder Cha-Cha's crushing on you," Leisha teased. "Huh? Cha-Cha?" Izuku asked. Rias couldn't help but get twitchy-eyed at that. "Well, that's all. We'll be going now," Sona said. Then she and Leisha left the clubroom. After picking up the last bits of trash, Izuku was ready to head home when Rias had something to say. "One more thing before we go. I've decided I'm going to live at your place," Rias said with a smile. "What?" Izuku asked. "That's right. I'll see you tomorrow at your place, okay?" Rias as she left, leaving Izuku behind, dumbfounded. "Kid, you doing okay?" "Izuku?" Deidre grew concerned for his partner as he just stood there, petrified. Right after Rias said she was going to move in with him, another thought hit him in realization. He just had his first kiss with a girl, and it seemed to be a lot for his brain to handle. "I kissed a girl, I kissed Rias. I mean, I really like her too, but I wasn't mentally prepared for all that. What should I say? Is it too early to tell her I low like her too? Is that going to make things weird? I have to say something." Deidre's sweat dropped at his partner's mumbling. It seemed an error occurred within izukumidoriya.exe. "This is going to be a thing for a while, isn't it?" he groaned. Izuku didn't hear the dragon as his thoughts ran a million miles an hour trying to process it all. And it only got worse when the thought of her moving in also sunk in. First Asia, then he found out about Cha-Cha, and now Rias too. Girls have been falling for him one after the other ever since he became a devil. Cha-Cha would occasionally blush when near him, Asia was slightly protective towards him, and that kiss with Rias was proof enough for her. What should he do? Even though he did like them, an actual romantic relationship was on a whole new level. "Just go home and rest, kid, you'll need it." Izuku finally heard Deidre and took his advice to go home and rest. That would be something he would deal with in the morning. In the morning, as Rias said, she had arrived at the Midoriya apartment with a lot of moving boxes. She quickly headed inside to meet up with Izuku's parents to convince them to let her stay there. Hisashi seemed okay with Rias staying, considering he knew Rias's true relationship with his son, and Inko, despite her shock at the news, was happy to host Rias after hearing how Izuku had helped her and gotten close to him over time since they met. As Izuku was amazed by how easily Rias had won his parents over, he turned to Asia, whose cheeks were puffed up with tears in her eyes. Izuku could see just how different his life was going to be now. Some part of him dreaded what's to come, but there was a bigger part of him that wouldn't change a single bit of it. After all, he would be going to UA, with friends he never would have imagined having. As they say, c'est la vie. Well, it'll never be dull, at the very least. He then turned to see his master smiling at him, and he awkwardly smiled back in return. At last, the time had arrived. It was the night before the first day of the school year, and Izuku was going to UA with his friends. Speaking of UA, it was recently announced that the school would be adopting an elevator system, meaning that it would now include elementary, middle school, and college levels as well, though the high school would still be the main school. Rias admitted it was partially thanks to her father, who was on the administrative staff. This also meant that Kaneko, who was currently a middle school third year, would be able to attend UA as well, albeit in a different building. After all the stuff that's happened to him over the last few months, Izuku was sure that hero course at UA would be a nice change of pace. Soon, it was morning, and as the morning rays beamed on his face, Izuku was slightly jolted from his slumber, though not enough to fully awaken him, and he groaned as he turned away from the light, his face meeting a different kind of pillow. Han. The sound of the soft moan caught Izuku's attention, and right in front of his wide-awake eyes were two pink circles connected to milk-colored balls. "Huh? What is? Izuku whispered before he was pulled closer to the soft mounds by a pair of slender arms. It didn't take long to figure out what those pillows were as his face took on the usual shade of red. Melons. Lifting his head, he saw the still sleeping face of Rias, her enchanting nude form in full display as lay with him together in bed. Her eyes then opened to meet Izuku's and smiled. Izuku, good morning. Good morning, Izuku greeted shyly, not moving due to shock. Why are you in bed with me? Naked? Again? I'm sorry. You had gone to sleep by the time I arrived, so I decided to let myself in, Rias answered. Don't you like having a cute girl sleeping in bed with you? She then squeezed her melons with her hands to make them look bigger. That's not the main issue, Izuku argued. Rias grinned. Oh, I couldn't help myself. I felt like sleeping with you as a hug pillow. Hug pillow? Izuku felt his shoulders being pressed down onto the bed. Rias pinned him down on the shoulders as she climbed onto his waist. Huh? What are you? Izuku, we've still got some time, Rias said, her melons hanging over his chest, while her face was close to his. Do you think something sexy would help deepen communication with my servant? To seal the deal, she planted a small kiss on his forehead. Izuku's mind could barely keep up with what was happening. Do you want to come at me? Rias suggested seductively, causing Izuku to gasp loudly. Don't worry, I'm willing to do anything for you as long as it makes you happy. Then, instincts took over as Izuku brought his blushing face closer to Rias's to lock lips together, only for a sudden knock on the door to quickly kill the mood. Are you up yet, Izuku? It's almost time for you to start your morning training, Asia called through the door in a sing-song voice. And we have orientation today. We can't be late. Asia, Izuku exclaimed. Oh, well shoot. I completely forgot about that, Rias realized, bopping herself on the head. Izuku, can you hear me? Are you awake? Izuku's eyes went wide as he had to answer, or else Asia would open the door to check on him to find a naked Rias in bed with him. He had to prevent that from happening. Oh, yeah, I'm up. Just gimme a sec. However, Rias seemed to have a different thought in mind. Asia, do you mind waiting another moment? Izuku and I need to get ready. We're both still in bed. Izuku froze as he turned to Rias with a comical look of betrayal, who just smiled mischievously. That was on purpose. When the door swung open, there was Asia, standing there with her face blushing and teary eyes. I hope you're doing well today, Rias greeted happily. It's not what it looks like, Izuku exclaimed. Asia simply looked on, still stunned at the sight of both of them in the bed with the president in her birthday suit. Then, she began to pull her shirt over her head. Whatever, I'm taking off my clothes too, she declared as she stripped off her shirt and removed her bra, leaving her melons bare. I swear, I'm not going to be left out anymore. Why is this happening? Izuku mentally screamed. At the breakfast table, everyone enjoyed a well-prepared meal, courtesy of Rias. So good, Hisashi remarked as he took a sip of miso soup. I know you're technically foreign, but this tastes like the real deal. Well, I've been living here for a while now, Rias reminded. Either way, I've never had anything this good. Yum, Izuku added as he drank from his own bowl of miso. He was pretty surprised to learn that Rias was an expert in cooking all sorts of different foods, ranging from Japanese, Western, Chinese, etc. Thank you. That was sweet, Rias smiled, and Izuku blushed a bit. However, while he did that, he failed to notice Asia at his side, pouting in jealousy over the attention he was giving to Rias and not her. She closed her eyes and wiped her head away, before pinching Izuku's right arm and twisting, causing him to cringe in pain. I have to admit, Rias, I was surprised when I found out you wanted to board here like Asia is doing, Inko admitted. But I can't help but love that you help out with cooking. Helping you is only natural, mother, Rias waved it aside. Then, Inko turned to Asia. Let's not forget about how much Asia has been doing with the cooking and laundry, too. Indeed, Asia was a great cook herself, and she was able to handle laundry pretty well. You are both so appreciated. Like Rias said, you're taking care of us, so it's only natural, Asia said with a blush while taking a bite of rice with some fish. Not long after breakfast, the teens got changed into their school uniforms and prepared to depart. Rias already had her shoes on, Asia didn't need any considering her lower body, and Izuku was just putting on his. Both Inko and Hisashi stood behind them to see them off. "Izuku, you're all set?" his mother asked. "Yeah," he responded. "Are you sure? You didn't just pack action figures, right?" Inko asked further, to Rias's amusement. "I have everything," Izuku insisted before finally getting his shoes on and picking up his backpack. "Now we gotta go. I don't want to be late." "Izuku," Hisashi called out. "What?" Izuku asked impatiently. Turning around, he saw the smiling faces of both his father and his mother. "We're really proud of you, son," Hisashi said, which Izuku felt touched by as Asia and Rias smiled. After a quick train ride, the three had arrived on the platform to UA, where they met up with Akino, Kaneko, and Yumi. They weren't the only ones there, as other UA students got off with them. It was just a short walk up the road to the UA campus, and as they got closer, the teens met up with Ijiro, Mina, and Itsuka. However, Ijiro's appearance had changed greatly. His hair was now dyed crimson red, a similar shade to Rias's hair, and it was raised in a spiky style. "Ijiro, is that you?" Asia asked. "Yeah, it's me. I decided that I wanted to start a new school year with a new me," Ijiro replied. "Oh, and are you copying me with that red hair?" Rias asked jokingly. Ijiro responded with a light chuckle. "Very funny. But this is actually homage to the chivalrous hero, Crimson Riot. I've heard of him. He's kinda old school, but yeah, I think he's amazing," Akino said. "Crimson's speech helped me through dark times when I was filled with doubts. So I decided to reinvent myself to be more like him." "In that case, I wish you luck in being a great hero like Crimson," Yumi said. "Go for it," Kaneko encouraged, giving a thumbs up. "Thanks, you guys." Soon, Kaneko split from the group to head over to the newly constructed middle school, the high schoolers wishing their kuhai a good first day before heading inside. "Do you think Shitori got us in the same homeroom?" Itsuka asked. One way to find out, Rias walked to the bulletin board, where lists for all of the classes for the different departments were posted. "Let's see, which class am I?" Ijiro wondered as he looked for his name. "Aha, 1A. "Nice, same here," Mina said. "I also got into 1A, Izuku said. "What about you, Asia?" he asked, only to frown when he saw the sad look on Asia's face. Following her eyes, Izuku saw Asia's name not in 1A, but 1B. 1B, she sulked. "She's not the only one," Itsuka said, pointing out her name, which was also listed under 1B. "You guys aren't going to be in the same class as us?" Mina asked, disappointed that all 5 of them couldn't get into the same class. "It's okay, we can still have lunch together," Izuku placated. "And our assignments should be similar to each other so we can study together." "Right," Rias added. "And from what I heard, there'll be plenty of times when both hero course classes will train together." "Besides, don't you spend plenty of time with him at home?" Akino added. Asia brightened up a bit upon hearing that. She was sad that she wouldn't be in the same class as Izuku, but it wasn't the end of the world, and at least she had Itsuka for a familiar face. "We should get to our respective classrooms now," Yumi said. "Wouldn't do us well to be late on the first day of class." The others agreed and quickly went into the school building. The first to split from the group were Rias and Akino, followed by Yumi. Then the first-year hero course students eventually went their separate ways to their respective classes. Along the way, Izuku, Ijiro, and Mina met up with some familiar faces: Sona Citri's Bishop, Momo Hanakai, and Knight, Tomo Meguri. "Oh hey, it's you guys," Tomo called out. "Are you headed for Class 1A?" Momo asked. "Yeah, us too," Ijiro said. "What about your friends?" Mina asked. "Are they in the hero course as well?" "Nah. Me and Momo were the only 2 who applied for the hero course. Everyone else is general studies," Tomo replied. "Also, Momo here is a recommendation student." "Recommendation? That's amazing," Izuku said. He had heard that a select few were admitted through recommendations. "So, what kind of exams did you take?" "It was rather simple, really. We all had to race each other," Momo replied. Soon, the 1A students arrived at their classroom, and the first thing they saw was the giant door that was nearly quadruple their height with 1A printed on it in red. "Man, this thing is huge," Mina said. "Are there giants here?" Ijiro wondered. "UA. Likes to go big, doesn't it? Tamo commented. The most promising students in the country are waiting behind this door, Momo noted. Izuku braced himself for what may lie ahead, only to think of Katsuki and the glasses kid, but he quickly brushed those fearful thoughts aside. Maybe we're in different classes. Maybe everyone in here is nice. With that, Izuku opened the door to see. Take your feet off of that desk now. Huh? It's the first day, and you're already disrespecting this academy by scuffing school property, you cretin. You're kidding me, right? Your old school put a stick up your ass, or were you born with it? The sight that greeted the newly arrived WANA students was an argument between their classmates, the glasses boy and Katsuki Bakugo, over the latter leaning his feet on the desk. Izuku, with a resigned smile, thought, just my luck. Let's start over. I'm Tenya Ida from the semi-private academy, the glasses boy introduced himself. Sumi, huh? You must think you're better than me. I'll have fun tearing you a new one, Katsui challenged. You would threaten me, your own classmate? Are you sure you're in the right place? Then the pair suddenly noticed the five standing right outside the classroom, especially the green-haired boy watching with a nervous expression. It's him, Tenya muttered, making Izuku flinch. Good morning, my name is Tenya Ida, he greeted as he made his way toward the group. Eijiro Kirishima. Mina Ashido. Tamo Meguri. Momo Hanakai. I'm Izukumidoriya. It's super nice to meet you. Midoriya, you realized that there was something more to the practical exam, didn't you? Tenya asked, to everyone's confusion. You must be very perceptive, and I completely misjudged you. I admit that as a student, you're far superior to me, he said while he made robot arm gestures, chopping the air several times. Careful with those robot arms, dude. You might hit somebody, another voice spoke. Turning around, Izuku saw the black-haired American girl from the lecture hall. She wore a standard female UA uniform that suited her nicely. Nice to see you again, I'm Danny Fenton. Then, there came yet another new voice. Hey, I recognize that messed up hair, falling boy. Izuku looked past Danny to see the brunette from the entrance exam. Oh my gosh, it's that nice girl from the exam. She looks good in that uniform. Falling boy? How'd you earn yourself a nickname like that? Mina asked teasingly. Izuku blushed a little and turned to the brunette. Yeah, and I remember you too, and the way you helped me out then. Think nothing of it. Oh, and I'm Ochako Uraraka. As the group outside started getting familiar with each other, Katsuki scowled as he remembered how Deku stood up to him when he tried to interrogate the nerd on how he got into UA. I'm gonna ruin that little bastard. Right after I figure out how he got in. What do you think we're doing today besides orientation? I wonder what our teachers are like. I can't wait to meet everybody, Ochako said. If you're just here to make friends, then you can pack up your stuff now. At the sound of the voice, the group froze when they turned to see a human-sized larva with a human face lying on the floor of the hallway. Or, rather, it was an adult male in a bright yellow sleeping bag. Possibly their teacher, or at least some authority figure. How they didn't notice him earlier is anyone's guess. Welcome to UA's hero course, the man lazily said as he took out a juice pouch from which he quickly slurped up. What is that thing? The students all internally screamed. Then, the larva man stood up as he opened up his sleeping bag. It took 8 seconds before you all shut up. That's not gonna work. Time is precious. Rational students would understand that. Who is this guy? If he's here, he must be some kind of pro, Izuku wondered. His vast knowledge of pro heroes allowed him to recognize most of them at first glance, but his mind drew a blank for this person. But he looks so worn out. What's his deal? Hello, I'm Shota Aizawa, your teacher, the man introduced himself to the class, much to their shock. Right, let's get to it. Put these on and head outside. Aizawa reached into his bag and pulled out a UA gym uniform. Meanwhile, Asia and Itsuka noticed a sign that read 1B and knew they found their class. As they got closer, they encountered a couple of familiar faces as well. Leisha Asteroth's queen, Chacha Akaninjin, and Rook, Orihime Yamasaki. Oh hey, you're Argento and Kendo, Orihime said. That's us. Didn't expect we'd all be in the same class, Itsuka asked. Yeah, I'll say, Chacha replied. The four girls then walked up to the tall door, which gave off quite an imposing presence. That's a big door, Asia gulped. I highly doubt there's anyone inside actually tall enough to need such a big door, Orihime reassured as she opened the door. The classroom looked like a normal classroom with 24 desks in total, and a few students present, the rest having yet to arrive. Hey, what's up? A girl with wavy, dark moss green hair that reached down to her shoulders and dark green eyes greeted the newcomers, her grin showing off her pointy teeth. Name's Setsuna Takage. The next to introduce herself was a black-haired girl with a shoulder-length bob-cut hairstyle side swept to her right with some shorter strands hanging above her eyes. She has fair skin, an athletic build, and cerulean eyes, and her most notable feature was her completely neutral poker face. Yui Kodai. Chacha Akinanjin, let's all get along, Chacha introduced herself. Orihime Yamasaki, a pleasure, Orihime greeted. Itsuka Kendo, nice to meet you, Itsuka said. I hope we can be great friends. I'm Asia Argento, Asia greeted back with a smile. Meanwhile, a light brown-haired boy with oval-shaped eyes with black pupils couldn't help but notice how cute Asia was when she smiled and decided to introduce himself. Hey, what's up? Kosai Tsubaraba, nice to meet ya. Likewise, I hope we can get along in class. Asia smiled. So, wanna hang out somewhere after school? Kosei said, pretty much asking her out. Sorry dude, but she's already crushing on someone else, Itsuka informed. Oh, darn it, Kosei muttered in disappointment. Funny thing is, Chacha here also likes the same guy, Orihime pointed toward Chacha. Chacha became annoyed at Orihime just revealing that so casually, the latter sending her a mischievous grin. Is that so? Tell me, who's the lucky guy? Setsuna suddenly entered the chat, having overheard the conversation. Lucky is a good way to describe that guy, Kosei thought as he became a bit envious. As Setsuna tried to grill Asia and Chacha more about their love interest, another boy in the room decided to introduce himself next. He was a young man with spiky black hair held up by a white bandana with blue stripes, and his eyes were gray. Hey, since we're all introducing ourselves, you can call me Yosutsu Awase, he quickly greeted, sitting back down. Then, another student came into the room, and he was quite bizarre looking. He was a tall and slender adolescent with yellow-green skin, and his hair was a bright, fluffy green mohawk. His eyes were slanted downward with small green pupils. His head resembled that of a praying mantis with mandibles and no visible nose. I'm Togaru Kamakiri. Are any of you good at fighting? 'Cause I love a good brawl. He chuckled almost menacingly before taking his seat. Asia couldn't help but feel a bit intimidated by his greeting. Chacha couldn't help but see some similarities to Katsuki Bakugo, though this guy seemed nicer at least. Whoa, what's his deal? Setsuna asked. Don't mind him. He might be eager to get into fights, but deep down, he's still a nice guy, another male's voice suddenly said. It belonged to a boy with pale skin and ash-blonde hair. His face lacked visible lips with teeth showing, and his eyes were angular, almost making it look like his entire face was just a skull. Name's Juzo Honuki. Another new face came in, and this time it was a girl. She had gray hair and blue eyes with bags underneath, and the left one was covered by her bangs. She had her hands raised to her elbows and held out forward like a ghost or a zombie. Riiko Yanagi, she introduced herself emotionlessly. Then, another girl came running in, trying to catch her breath once she came to a stop. She was a short girl who had a round face with big blue eyes, and there were two big horns on top of her head. Her blonde hair was long and wavy. She also had a short horse-like tail, and her calves also resembled that of a horse's and brown hooves for feet. Forgive me if I'm tardy. My doggone alarm got busted, and I got a wee bit lost because I had to skedaddle here. I hope I arrived in the nick of time, she said. A lot of the class was left baffled. The way she spoke, not to mention how fast it was, left them wondering what she just said. Juzo, on the other hand, smiled and turned to the girl. Easy there, hold your horses. I don't think everyone managed to catch that. He said in the same speed and manner as the horse-like girl, leaving everyone baffled he was able to keep up with her. The girl blushed in embarrassment before smiling sheepishly. Oops, sorry. I have a habit of reverting to my native speech when I panic. Anyway, the name's Pony Tsunotori. "Hello everybody," a loud masculine voice announced, to everyone's surprise. Everyone's eyes then turned to the newcomer. He was the same steel-quirked teen who got into a shouting match with Ijiro during the entrance exam. My hope for this class is for each and every one of us to be the manliest heroes we all can be. I'm Tetsu. It's so manly. You say it twice. Aw yeah. As Tetsu marched to his seat, the other students couldn't help but think about his name. Sure, if he likes it still, they had to wonder what exactly his parents were thinking when they named him. The next to enter was a tall young man. His shaggy brown hair covered most of his body, and his jaws were lined with sharp teeth and stuck out a bit, with two lower canines poking upwards between his lips. Lately, he had small, rectangular glasses with thick lenses that contrasted his beastly appearance. Greetings. My name is Jiroda Shishida. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I hope we can all get along. Thank you. He spoke in a polite, formal tone, again defying his beastly image. Another student soon came in. It was a half-Spanish girl with long pink hair in a braided ponytail with a white ribbon tied to it, along with additional twin braids at her temples, and brown eyes. Hola, I'm Rebecca Riku. Happy to be here. The next student was another girl. She had straight, thigh-length brown hair in a Heim cut and blue eyes. She also wore black long gloves and tights that covered her arms and legs. Hey, everyone, I'm Asuka Kukawa. Fufu. Let's all have a great time together. Soon, more students started coming in, such as the strange-looking manga Fukudashi, Shihei Kirawaro, and Kajiro Bondo, the friendly Huryu Rin and Nyaranjeki Shota, the eccentric Kanoko Komori, and the average-looking Sen Kaibara. By now, 23 students were present, and the opening of the door signaled the appearance of the 24th and final member of Class 1B. It was another male with blonde hair and blue eyes. On his face, a confident grin was on full display as he faced his classmates. Good morning, and here I vow, with my brains and strength, I'll be sure to lead everyone here to greatness. Everyone in Japan will know us as the greatest hero class in the country. The greatest? Huh, I do like the sound of that, Togaru smirked. Hell yeah, we'll be the greatest heroes the world has ever seen, Tetsu cheered. Oh, and the name's Nido Monoma, the blonde introduced himself. Remember it, because that will be the name of the next #1 hero. Everyone, in your seats. The powerful voice made everyone flinch, and those that weren't already in their seats quickly did so, looking straight up front. Then, one more person entered, except he was the teacher and a pro hero. The teacher was tall and muscular with spiky light gray hair and a yellow visor over his eyes. Even with his mouth closed, his prominent canines were still visible. He had some scars on his left cheek and neck. His costume was a red skin-tight suit with a low U-shaped collar lined with a thick black Y-shaped trim, with his shoulder trims having the same color. Around his waist, he had a 3-piece metallic belt that dipped downwards in the center. Lastly, he wore white over the knee boots and thick vambraces over his lower arms, a thin wire snaking from one of the 2 small protrusions on the left one to the back of his neck, and red gloves. The teacher walked up to the desk and stared down all the students before speaking. All right, my name is Sekijiro-kan, your homeroom teacher, but you all can call me Vlad King. Most of the students nodded while Tetsu saluted. My hope for this class is that all of you will become proud heroes worthy of representing the next generation. You may ask what being a hero means, and everyone will have different answers, but here's mine. Someone who is willing to step up to the risks for the sake of someone else and put an end to injustice whenever they see it. Vlad King continued. All of you have potentials waiting to be brought forth, and UA will make damn sure we bring out every last bit of it. We're not running some average, run-of-the-mill hero course here at UA. We don't settle down when it seems we've hit our limit. We go beyond that. There will be many hardships on the road ahead. But remember that all the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears are another stepping stone on the path to being amazing heroes. Now, let me hear a plus ultra. Plus ultra, all the students shouted with all their might. Vlad King's speech motivated them to work hard to be the best heroes they could be. Tetsu, in particular, was gushing manly tears. Good. Now then, Vlad King began. Everyone line up and head to the auditorium where orientation will take place. Yes, sir, everyone said at once as they began to head out as Vlad King instructed. Meanwhile, all 24 members of Class 1A were outside in one of UA's training fields, wearing matching gym uniforms, as they stood together in one big group. Before we begin, a quick roll call so I know everyone is here. I'll go in order of student seating, Aizawa stated before taking out a course book. The students all stood at attention as their teacher called on each of them. Yuga Aoyama. Here, bonjour, the blonde naval laser boy from the entrance exam responded. Mina Ishido. Here. Tsuyu Isui. Here, Ribbit, a girl with long black-green hair and a frog-like face said. Tenya Ida. Here, Tenya called out, hand raised. Ochako Uraraka. Here. Mashirao Ajiro. Here, a blonde boy with a long, muscular tail called out. Denki Kaminari. Here, another blonde young man called out. He had a black lightning bolt streak on the left fridge in his hair. Ijiro Kirishima. Here. Koji Koda. A peach-skinned boy whose head had a rocky appearance shyly raised his hand to respond to his name rather than by speaking. Ethel Jinzen. Here. A girl with long, straight silver hair going down her back with blunt bangs and blue eyes replied affirmatively. Rikido Sato. Here, a large young man with spiky brown hair and thick lips responded. Mizo Shoji. Here. Calmly called a young gray-haired man wearing a face mask, speaking through a mouth spawned from one of the shape-shifting arms that spread from his normal ones. Hilda Shirakabe. Here, a girl with brown hair in a ponytail and blue eyes called out. Her most notable feature was how fat she was. Her belly was enormous and round. Her enviably massive melons were undeniably the biggest in the whole class. Her arms and thighs had a layer of fat around them, but were also firm enough to suggest some muscles underneath. Her butt was also huge, to the point it could be used like a pillow, and her uniform was tailor-made to fit her wide girth. Kyoka Jiro. Here, a girl with violet hair replied. She had sound wave patterns in her hair, and her earlobes had extensions resembling earphone jacks. Hanta Siro. Here, called out a black-haired boy with tape dispensers on his elbow. Fumikage Takoyami. Here, a young man with a black bird-like head calmly replied. Despite his head, the rest of him resembled that of an average human, and he wore a red choker around his neck. Shototodoroki. Here, another young man coldly responded. His hair was dual-colored, being split down the middle with his right side being white while his left was red. Similarly, his eyes were heterochromatic with the right one being gray and the left one blue. Another thing to note was the burn scar around his left eye. Toru Hagakure. Here, called a cheerful girl who was completely invisible from head to toe. The only thing marking her presence was her gym uniform. Momo Hanakai. Here. Danny Fenton. Here. Katsuki Bakugo. Here. Izukumidoriya. Here. Minoru Mainta. Here, a really short kid with black eyes answered. Instead of hair, he had purple spheres growing out of his scalp. Tamo Meguri. Here. Good, that's everyone. Now then, we'll be doing a quirk assessment test, Aizawa said. A quirk assessment test? All the teens asked. But orientation, we're gonna miss it, Ochako voiced her concerns. If you really want to make the big leagues, then you can't waste time on pointless ceremonies, Aizawa said, to everyone's surprise. Here at UA, we're not tethered to traditions. That means that I get to run my class however I see fit. A few students felt intimidated by what that could mean. You've been taking standardized tests most of your lives, but you never got to use your quirks in physical exams before. Aizawa held out his phone, which displayed a list of 8 fitness tests. The country's still trying to pretend we're all created equal by not letting those with the most power excel. It's not rational. One day, the Ministry of Education will learn. He then turned toward Katsuki. Bakugo, what was your farthest distance throw with a softball when you were in junior high? 67 meters, I think, Katsuki replied. Right, try doing it with your quirk. Soon, Katsuki was in a pitching circle with a ball in hand. Anything goes, just stay in the circle, Aizawa instructed. Go on, you're wasting your time. All right, man, you asked for it, Katsuki said while stretching his arms. The explosion quirk user then got in a throwing stance. I'll add a little heat to my pitch and drop their jaws. Then, with a maniacal grin, Katsuki roared, "Die!" Right before he threw, he set off an explosion that sent the ball rocketing through the air, way beyond 67 meters. "Oh, whoa," Izuku muttered. "All of you need to know your maximum capabilities," Aizawa stated as he watched the ball drop to the ground. "It's the most rational way of figuring out your potential as pro heroes." He then turned back to the students and showed them Katsuki's score on his phone, which read 705 meters. The students were amazed by how far Katsuki was able to throw the ball by using his quirk. "Whoa, 705 meters. You kidding me?" Denki said. "I want to go. That looks like fun," Mina said. "This is what I'm talking about. Using our quirks as much as we want." Hanta grinned excitedly, and so did Ijiro. However, Aizawa seemed ready to send some bad news their way. "So this looks fun, huh? You have 3 years here to become a hero. You think it's all gonna be games and playtime?" he asked in a serious tone, to his students' surprise. "Idiots. Today you'll compete in 8 physical tests to gauge your potential. Whoever fails to show their potential will be expelled immediately." This caught the students off guard. It's only their first day and they're already facing threats of expulsion. "Like I said, I get to decide how this class runs. Understand?" Aizawa grinned, his twisted smile looking like a demented version of Totoro. "If that's a problem, you can head home right now." The students' reactions were quite mixed. Some students reacted with horror and/or nervousness. Some were confident in their abilities to pass Aizawa's test. Izuku was among the former group, but even so, he was determined to succeed. A huge test of the first day of school. "But I can't get discouraged. I worked hard to get into UA, and I won't let Rias and everyone else who helped me down." Inside the assembly hall, the 24 students from Class 1B were in the stands along with the other first-year students, chatting amongst themselves. Asia looked toward the empty seats, where Class 1A was supposed to be. It shouldn't take them this long. "So where are they?" Asia asked herself, looking around for Class 1A. "Do you see 1A, Itsuka?" she asked the orange-haired girl sitting next to her. Itsuka shook her head. "No." "Is something wrong? You look like you're looking for someone." Setsuna spoke from behind them. "I'm just wondering where's Class 1A? I can't find Izuku and our other friends from that class," Asia answered, looking around for the other class. "Maybe they're running late," Yui suggested. "First day delays and that stuff." "Back up, Izuku?" Setsuna asked with a raised eyebrow. "You're that close with the guy, huh?" she said with a sly smile, causing Asia to blush. Meanwhile, over at the area for Class 1D, there were the other first-year members of Sona's peerage, Saji, Ruruko, Rhea, and Tsubasa. "Hey, you see Momo and Tomo's class anywhere?" Ruruko asked. "Nope, just empty seats," Tsubasa replied, eyeing the vacant seats meant for 1A. Meanwhile, Rias and Sona were having a similar conversation over at 2C. "Sona, you don't think," Rias said. "It's already this late, there's no point in questioning it. It's just the first day and our servants have their work cut out for them," Sona replied, adjusting her glasses. "You can't send one of us home," Ochako protested. "I mean, we just got here. Even if it wasn't the first day, that isn't fair." "Oh, and you think natural disasters are? Or power-hungry villain, Or catastrophic accidents that wipe out whole cities?" Aizawa questioned back. "No, the world is full of unfairness. It's a hero's job to try to combat that unfairness. If you want to be a pro, you're going to have to push yourself to the brink." "He can't be serious. He's probably bluffing," Momo said under her breath. "I hope you're right about that," Tomo whispered back. "For the next 3 years, UA will throw one terrible hardship after another at you. So go beyond. Plus ultra style," Aizawa continued as he made a come-on gesture with his fingers, daring those brave enough to step up to the plate. "Show me it's no mistake that you're here. I don't approve of this kind of hazing, but UA's the top hero program. I have no choice." Tenya took a sip of orange juice to properly fuel up his quirk. "Time to blow these nerds away," Katsuki stretched his arms. "Now then, we're just wasting time by talking. Let the games begin." Test 1, 50-meter dash. The students were led to a pair of 50-meter long tracks with a camera bot at the finish to track their time. The first ones to step up for the test were Tenya and Tsuyu, taking their positions at the starting line. Using the engines in his calves to increase his speed, Tenya sprinted his way to the finish line in 3:04 seconds. Tsuyu hopped like a frog the whole way, managing to reach the finish line in 5:58 seconds. At 50 meters, I can only get up to third gear, Tenya noted as he came to a stop. Tenya Ida. His quirk, engine. As you can see, his legs are pretty dang fast. Well, he's definitely in his element. But speed won't help him in every test, Aizawa observed. The next pair were Ochako and Ojiro. I'll lighten up my clothes. Oh, and my shoes too. Ochako tagged her clothes and shoes, her fingertips glowing pink as she did so. Ochako Uraraka. Her quirk, zero gravity. She can nullify the gravitational pull of anything she touches. But if she uses her power too much, she totally hurls. Ojiro, using his tail to spring himself forward, managed to reach the end by 5:49 seconds, while Ochako came after him at 7:15 seconds. Well, at least that's faster than junior high, Ochako thought in relief as she brought both sets of her fingertips together. The third pair consisted of Mina and Yuga, the latter having a confident grin on his face. Nice attempts, mon ami. But you're just not showing enough panache, Yuga boasted while having his back facing the track with his arms wrapped around his head while Mina got into position. The moment the camera bot announced to start, Yuga jumped into the air and fired a laser from his navel to shoot himself forward ahead of Mina. Look at how I shine. Yuga Aoyama. His quirk, navel laser. That's right, a belly button laser. But he can't shoot it forever. After a second of firing his laser, Yuga stopped, and he fell to the ground, giving Mina, who was barefoot to use her acid to skate her way to the finish, a chance to get ahead of him. Yuga quickly got up and fired another beam to fly backward to the finish, making it at 5:51 seconds, though Mina already finished before him. Shooting my beautiful beam for more than a second hurts my tummy, Yuga said as if it was something to brag about, with stars flashing around him. What a tool, a few of the other students thought. The fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh pairs to go consisted of Koji and Ethel, Rikido and Mizo, Ijiro and Denki, and Hanta and Fumikage, whose times were all within ranges of 5:19.712 seconds. The eighth pair of Hilda and Kyoka then got in position. Despite what one might expect of someone of Hilda's frame, she was quick on her thick legs as she reached the goal within 4:21 seconds, while Kyoka made it at 6:28 seconds. Damn, how are you so quick on your feet? Kyoka asked. Never underestimate fat power, Hilda said while putting her arms to her sides, proudly emphasizing her ginormous gut. Hilda Shirakabe. Her quirk, fat power. She gains more power the more body fat she has. The bigger she is, the stronger, faster, and more resilient she gets. Testing the upper limits of their powers helps me assess their room for growth. It becomes clear what they can and can't do. Their true potential, Aizawa noted as he observed more students take part in the test before turning to the 11th and second to last pair, Katsuki and Izuku. The former sent a quick glare at the latter, who refused to be intimidated by it. Sometimes, pros have to be creative in order to succeed. Burst speed, Katsuki set off his explosions behind him to give himself speed boosts. He smirked, confident he would beat Deku, until he saw that Deku was already in front of him. 3:25 seconds, the camera bot announced Izuku's time. 3:95 seconds, it then declared Katsuki's time. Katsuki's jaw dropped in disbelief, though it was less about Deku beating him, rather, it was Deku himself. Izuku had a pair of green, leathery wings with scales, which were also visible on his arms and sides of his face. What the hell was that? If he had a quirk, he would have gotten it when we were kids. This is impossible. He's up to something. I'm getting to the bottom of this. Aizawa also took notice of Izuku's appearance, though he was merely wondering about the color change of Izuku's scales compared to the entrance exam where they were red. Then he noticed that Bakugo seemed ready to blow a gasket. Hey, Deku, you bastard! Tell me how you did that, or you're dead, Katsuki shouted, startling everyone as he stomped his way toward the Demodrake. But before he could get his hands on Izuku, Aizawa's scarf flew out to grab Katsuki and hold him back. He tried to move, but the scarf was too strong, and when he tried to use his quirk, nothing happened. What? Why the hell is your scarf so damn strong? Katsuki turned to Aizawa and asked. Because it's a capture weapon made out of carbon fiber and a special metal alloy, Aizawa explained. His hair was standing up and his eyes glowed piercing red. Stand down. What exactly were you hoping to achieve trying to attack him like that? Attacking a fellow student outside of training calls for serious consequences. Understand? Aizawa's voice was low, yet deliberate. As Katsuki reluctantly eased up, Aizawa retracted his scarf and blinked. As the cloth returned to Aizawa, Izuku noticed a pair of yellow goggles around Aizawa's neck, and the way Kaken seemed to be unable to use his quirk started connecting dots in his head. Those goggles, I know you, Izuku said in realization. You can look at someone and cancel out their powers. The Erasure hero, Eraserhead. Class 1A's homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. His quirk, Erasure. He can erase the quirk of anyone he looks at. But the effects end when he blinks. Eraser? Who's that? Hanta asked. Oh, I've heard of him. I think he works on the down low, Tsuyu said. I've heard he's the type who dislikes the media, Ethel added. It would be wise to avoid making me use my quirk so much. It gives me serious dry eyes, Aizawa said. Enough wasting time. Mainta, Megiri, you're up. The 12th and last pair of Mainta and Tomo took their positions. The grape-headed midget had a perverted grin on his face as he focused on Tomo's butt before a sharp glare from the devil girl caused him to get scared and stop. As soon as the robot called start, Tomo curled up into a ball before turning into an actual blue ball about 1-2 meters big with small spikes, rolling with great speed to reach the finish line in 3:19 seconds, changing back right after crossing. Tomo Megiri. Her quirk, rollout. She can transform into an armored, spiked ball that can roll around with great momentum and maneuverability. Not only that, she's super tough as well. As for Mainta, he plucked several spheres from his head and threw them on the path in front before bouncing off them like mini trampolines to get to the other side. Unfortunately for him, it took up to 7:55 seconds to reach the end, the longest out of everyone. His short stature certainly did him no favors either. Test 2. Grip Strength. In a gym, the students were given handheld devices to grasp and squeeze as hard as they could to measure their grip strength. Izuku, with his boosted gear equipped, squeezed his grip tester and got 475.6 kilograms. Pretty good, if he said so himself. Wow, Hanta's voice shouted in awe. You hit 540 kilograms. You're such a beast. Yeah, like a muscly octopus, Mainta added. Izuku smiled. His score wasn't the top, but at least he wasn't doing badly. Test 3. Standing Long Jump. Yuga fired his beam to shoot himself over the sandbox. Katsuki used his explosions to blast himself over as well. Ochako managed to float herself over the sandbox, though she ended up having to fight the urge to vomit. Momo created a set of spring shoes for a jump boost, then a makeshift glider to glide over the sandbox. Danny, with her appearance like back in the entrance exam, flew over the sand pit. It was a cinch for Izuku to do the same by using his wings. The lowest scorer was once again Mainta, his height once again working against him, combined with only being allowed to bounce off his ball on the initial platform, without much forward momentum. Test 4. Repeated side steps. In this test, Mainta did much better, forming a clump of his balls on both his sides and using them to repeatedly bounce off them at a rapid pace. His short height actually made this easier as well. Tomo did quite well also, her knight attribute making her quick on her feet. Tenya showed his skills by firing off his leg engines at the right times to get the optimal score as well. Hilda also showed her skills with her nimble leg movements, once again defying what one might expect from someone of her stature. Izuku managed to find a way to use his wings to help control his movements. Test 5. Ball Throw. Because he had already done the ball throw, Katsuki was exempt from having to do it again. Some students managed to get creative with their quirks, such as Momo creating a rocket launcher to fire the ball out of, Ojiro using his muscular tail to throw the ball, Danny enhancing the ball with green energy to make it fly farther, and Ethel equipping a big silver vambrace over her arm to enhance her throw. Izuku once again equipped his boosted gear to give himself a few boosts before throwing the ball, which was sent flying 741 meters. Ha! You lose, Deku, Katsuki bragged. considering his own score of 705 2 meters. Wah! He sure did, by 1 meters. It's small, but it was enough for Katsuki to feel like he had reasserted his dominance. He still wanted to let Deku have it, but Eraserhead wasn't going to have any of that, so he would take whatever he could get, no matter how small. Then, Ochako took her turn, using her quirk to make the ball weightless before throwing it high and allowing it to fly off in the air, where it kept going and going and going until it just became a twinkle in the sky. Aizawa simply held up his phone to show Ochako's score, which displayed the infinity symbol. Infinity? The class asked in disbelief. That's insane. How is that possible? Denki questioned. Katsuki was irritated that right as he managed to assert his dominance over Deku, he quickly got upstaged by someone else. Test 6. Distance Run. For this test, everyone ran laps all at once to see how long and far they could run. And of course, some used their powers to make things easier for themselves. Izuku, thanks to his physical training and the boosted gear, was keeping up rather well. Katsuki used his explosions to boost himself forward. Tomo was in her ball form as she rolled across the track. Tenya fired his engines to boost himself and decrease the strain of using his legs. Shoto made himself some ice to keep himself cool as he ran. Momo created a portable electric fan for the same purpose. The first to give up was Mainta, followed by Toru. Eventually, the last ones to quit were Shoto, Momo, Tomo, Hilda, Katsuki, Tenya, and lastly, Izuku. Test 7. Seated Toe Touch. Tsuyu easily performed best out of everyone, thanks to her frog-like biology making her more flexible. Almost got it, Momo huffed as she leaned forward, her large breasts pressing down on her legs. Ugh. Just my luck, Hilda lamented. This time, being fat actually worked against her as one might assume, with her big tummy getting in her way as she tried reaching for her toes. Meanwhile, Mainta's eyes were fixed on the two, specifically the way the former's boobs were squished against her legs and how the latter's ass was standing out, hoping he could see a butt crack slip. The hero course is the best, Mainta said, drool starting to spill out of his mouth. However, his perverted fantasies came to an end when Aizawa slapped him over the head to make him pay attention. Test 8. Sit-ups. There wasn't really much anyone could do with their quirks in this exercise, so they mostly just relied on their physical abilities, except Shoto, who once again used his ice for cooling himself, and Mainta, who stuck a ball where his head would go down so that he could bounce off it. During this, Katsuki sent a heated glare at Izuku while matching him going up and down. Have you noticed Bakugo giving you a death glare this whole time? I noticed. Unfortunately, Izuku replied mentally to D-Drag's question. With all 8 tests done, the students were finally able to catch a break. Some were completely exhausted, while others were doing fairly well. All right, time to give you your results, Aizawa said as he stepped in front of his class. I've ranked all of you from best to worst. You should probably have a good idea of your standing already. I'll just pull up the whole list. It's not worth going over each individual score. Aizawa then tapped his phone and a holographic screen with the results came up. 1. Momo Hanakai. 2. Shototodoroki. 3. Izukumidoriya. 4. Katsuki Bakugo. 5. Hilda Shirakabe. 6. Danny Fenton. 7. Tenya Ida. 8. Fumikage Takoyami. 9. Mizo Shoji. 10. Tomo Meguri. 11. Eijiro Kirishima. 12. Mina Ashido. 13. Ethel Jinzen. 14. Masahiro Jiro. 15. Ochako Uraraka. 16. Koji Koda. 17. Rikido Sato. 18. Tsuyu Isui. 19. Yuga Aoyama. 20. Hantashiro. 21. Denki Kaminari. 22. Kyoka Jiro. 23. Toru Hagakure. 24. Minoru Mainta. 3rd place, that's not bad, Izuku thought in relief. You once again scored higher than Bakugo, though I'm not sure that's entirely a good thing. Indeed, Katsuki looked ready to explode seeing how he scored lower than Deku, causing some students to back away in fear. Izuku made a mental note to keep his distance from Kaken for a while. Wah! Everyone turned back to Mainta, who was now openly sobbing. I'm so screwed. I didn't even get to see any of the girls in their costumes. Most of the class, especially the girls, looked at him with a deadpan expression. Good to know he had his priorities straight. Quit your whining. Everyone suddenly turned to Aizawa. You're not getting expelled. Minta sniffled, daring himself to hope for salvation. Really? I'm surprised the rest of you didn't figure it out. Honestly, what kind of teacher would expel someone on their first day? Momo sighed. Yeesh, couldn't you have mentioned that earlier? Kyoka asked. Phew. I thought he was serious about expelling the one who came last place, Toru said in relief, considering she was so close to being last place herself. Seems you all need to work on your listening skills, Aizawa suddenly cut into the conversation. The entire class went silent as they turned toward their teacher, who once again had his dreaded Totoro grin. My exact words were, whoever fails to show their potential will be expelled. I never said anything about last place, did I? Okay, but if you're not expelling anyone, then that means we all did well, right? Ochako asked, daring to sound hopeful. It's because you all worked hard to show me you're serious about being here that I'm not kicking anyone out. Otherwise, I would have expelled those who didn't take this seriously. Hell, even the entire class if I felt like it. Seriously? The class shouted together. Ha ha ha, he may look like a hobo, but I'm gonna like your teacher. Well, good for you then, Izuku nervously replied. Tamo turned to Momo to whisper into her ear. What was that about a bluff? I've been wrong before, Momo sheepishly admitted while blushing and tapping her index fingers together. Many think all they need to get into UA is a powerful quirk and good grades. But quirks can only get you so far. They're useless on their own without the mindset to use them creatively or the potential to grow. It's our job as teachers to teach you all to be heroes. But what's not talked about often is the dangers of being heroes. Heroes can get crippled, or worse, lose their lives on the job. That's a fact. If you think being a hero with a strong quirk is all you need for an easy life, I'm afraid you'll be only heading to an early grave. Aizawa lectured. Remember this. Just because I don't kick you out today, that doesn't mean I can't do it later if I feel like you're not taking this seriously and taking it all for granted. He stared all of them down as they all trembled before him. Am I understood? Why, yes, sir. Good, that's it. We're done for the day. Pick up a syllabus in the classroom. Read it over before tomorrow morning. Aizawa then turned around and started heading back to campus. Things are going to be tougher tomorrow when your actual training begins. Make sure you're prepared. A lot of the students' legs gave out and they collapsed on the ground, still reeling from the experience of figurative near death. In the end, the group didn't have much to say as they all marched back to the classroom. Once the WANA students got back to class, they picked up their syllabuses, and soon, the first day came to an end and everyone started heading home. Izuku, Mina, and Ijiro were walking together out of the school building. Man, that was something for a first day, right? Mina said. Yeah, if it was this intense the first day, I can't imagine how tomorrow will be, Izuku said. I'm down for a challenge. I say bring it, Ajo said. Then, Izuku suddenly felt a hand on his shoulder from behind, and when he turned around, he saw Tenya. Ah, hey there, Ida. Apologies if I scared you. I just wanted to congratulate you on scoring 3rd place in the test, Tenya greeted. It's not that big of a deal, Izuku shrugged. You three seem close to each other. I take it you were already friends before UA? Tenya asked. Well, Kirishima and I went to the same middle school. Then we met Midoriya a few months before the entrance exam, and after this and that, we became fast friends, Mina replied. That's one way to put it. The group looked behind them to see Rias, with Akino and Yumi behind her, coming up to them. Oh, Buchu, Izuku, Mina, and Ijiro all greeted. Buchu? Ida asked. Glad to see you made it through your first day in one piece, Akino greeted. You all got lucky, Rias stated. I heard that Mr. Aizawa expelled an entire class last year. That's comforting, Mina muttered. Hello, you must be our friend's classmate, Yumi said to Tenya, greeting him with her warm smile. Oh, yes. Where are my manners? I am Tenya Ida. A pleasure to meet you. The pleasure is ours. I'm Yumi Kiba, first year General Studies, Class 1C. Rias Gremory, second year General Studies, 2D. From the same class, Akino Haimjima. Upperclassmen? An honor to meet you, Gremory and Haimjima, Tenya greeted, doing a perfect bow. Well, aren't you formal? Rias said. My, what a gentleman, Akino added. Izuku, everyone. They turned back to the building to see Asia heading their way while waving, and behind her were Itsuka and Chacha. Hey, Asia, Kendo, Chacha, Izuku greeted. He already figured Chacha was in 1B when he didn't see her in 1A. Oh, are these friends of yours as well? Tenya asked. We are, Itsuka replied. We're in class 1B. I see, so you're some of our fellow hero course students, Tenya said. I'm amazed at such a big gathering of pre-UA acquaintances, especially the fact that 2 of them are our upperclassmen. Well, you know, stuff happened, Izuku simplified. Oh, Izuku, there's no need to be shy. Tell him how close we are, Rias said as she gave him a hug, burying his head into her bosom. Asia and Chacha stared slack-jawed at what they saw, jealousy swelling inside the devil girls. Yumi, Akino, and Mina chuckled in amusement. Tenya, Ijiro, and Itsuka blushed at the sight. Other nearby students also saw the greenette's face being pressed into the redhead's bountiful assets, with many of the males and even a few females sporting envious glares. Be Buchu, stop! People are staring, Asia begged. Chuckling, Rias released Izuku from her embrace, who looked lost from reality with his face all red and his eyes swirling. Izuku, are you okay? Chacha asked. Ima okay, Izuku replied while in a daze. He, Ochako's voice called out as she raced toward the group. Wait up! Are you going to the station? I'll join you guys. It's her again, Izuku noted. Someone else from class, eh? Itsuka guessed. You're the Infinity Girl, Ochako Uraraka? Tenya asked as Ochako caught up to them. Yep, that's me, Ochako replied. Let's see, you are Tenya Ida, Ijiro Kirishima, Mina Ashido. Ochako started identifying her classmates by name as she finally turned to Izuku. And your name is Deku, right? Midoriya? Deku? Izuku shouted in disbelief. Asia, Rias, and Chacha also couldn't help but be annoyed at Izuku being called that name which Bakugo used. Yeah. Isn't that what Bakugo called you? Ochako asked innocently. During the fitness test, he said. She then imagined a cartoonish image of an angry Katsuki shouting, Deku, you bastard. Right? Well, my name's actually Izuku. Deku is what Kaken calls me to make fun of me, Izuku explained. That's unsportsmanlike, Tenya commented. No kidding, Rias said. Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry, Ochako apologized. But you know what? I like Deku. It could make a great hero name. Plus, I think it sounds kinda cute, she said with a smile. Deku, it is, Izuku suddenly declared, his face all red. This caught everyone by surprise that Izuku just suddenly accepted the nickname that was supposed to be degrading. Just like that? Weren't you saying that it was an insult? Tenya asked. Izuku, is something wrong? Rias asked. His face is all red, Akino commented. Paradigm shift. My whole world is upside down, Izuku tried his best to explain as he covered his red blushing face with his hands. Wait, what? Ochako asked, wondering what Izuku was going through. Upon seeing the way Uraraka made Izuku blush, Rias, Asia, and Chacha were all thinking the same thing. Love rival. Anyway, if you are heading to the station, I would like to join you as well, Tenya said. Sure thing, though we still have someone else we need to pick up, Rias said. There are no clubs since it's the first day, so we're completely free for the evening. I actually know a good hangout place nearby, Chacha spoke up. We can all go together. Great. Lead the way, Akino said. After meeting up with Kaneko, the group departed from the campus, chatting about their eventful first day. I survived my first day at UA and made some new friends too. All in all, today was a good day, Izuku thought as he walked. It was the second day of school and the school year had officially begun. And as for the hero course students, they were currently in English class with present Mike. Just an average, normal high school class. Now, which of these 4 sentences contains a mistake? Present Mike asked as he turned to the class. 1. The man whom I respect most is my father. 2. That is the house in which he lived. 3. I well remember the day on which we both met. 4. Please tell me that all you know." "So boring," Mina, Denki, and Kyoka thought with tired looks. "This really sucks," Katsuki thought, wanting to just hurry up and get to the only class that really mattered. "Hey everybody, look alive, grammar rules." Present Mike tried to get the class more motivated. Momo then raised her hand to answer the question. "Hanakai, lay it on us." At lunchtime, the students were able to buy pretty tasty meals on the cheap, courtesy of the cook hero, Lunch Rush. Izuku, Ajiro, Mina, Ochako, and Tenya sat at a table where they were visited by said hero, leading to Izuku gushing at seeing him in person. "White rice is the perfect comfort food, isn't it?" This is super good," Ochako nodded while eating some white rice. Soon, Lunch Rush left, and they were joined by Asia, Itsuka, Rias, Akino, Yumi, and Chacha. "So, how is the hero course treating you so far?" Rias asked, occupying the seat next to Izuku. It's surprisingly like any normal school so far," Izuku replied. "Ditto for us," Itsuka added, "except for the part where our teachers are pro-heroes." As the hero course students discussed what their afternoon might be like, Rias suddenly held up a fork with an octopus sausage at the end. "Oh, Izuku, open up." Izuku blushed slightly as he opened his mouth to allow Rias to feed him the sausage. As he chewed the sausage, he noticed a mischievous glint in Rias's eyes. Then it hit him. The fork she used to feed him. The one she made sure touched his lips. It was the fork she had been using. She just pulled an indirect kiss trick on him. Izuku's eyes then wandered to Asia and Chacha, who had stopped eating to glare enviously at Rias before offering him some of their own food as well. Mina grinned giddily at seeing a love fight go down, while Tenya tried to calm the two jealous girls down. Ochako, on the other hand, felt something weird. She didn't know why, but seeing Gremory give Deku an indirect kiss upset her for some reason. In the afternoon, after all the normal classes were over, it was finally time for the class that the Wanna students were waiting for, Hero Basic Training. They sat in the classroom, waiting patiently for their instructor to arrive. "I am here." A booming voice that the students all recognized got their attention, especially Izuku's. Coming through the door like a hero. As the door swung open, All Might entered the room, his glorious titanic figure gazing down upon the future heroes while his cape bellowed forward to add dramatics to his entrance. "I can't believe it's really All Might," Denki said in excitement. "Japan's #1 hero," Danny shouted. "To think All Might would be teaching us. Such an honor," Ethel said. "Hey, look, is he wearing his Silver Age costume?" Tsuyu noted. All Might's Silver Age costume consisted of a skin-tight bodysuit that had a red upper half and a blue lower half with white markings on the chest and stripes that ran down his sides. He also wore yellow boots, belt, and braces, and flowing down his back was a majestic blue cape with a red inside. As All Might marched heroically to the desk, the students continued to admire his awe-inspiring presence. "I'm getting goosebumps. It's so retro," Ajiro stared in awe. "Welcome to the most important class at UA. Hi, think of it as herding 101. Here you will learn the basics of being a pro, and what it means to fight in the name of good," All Might said while striking heroic poses. "Let's get into it." He then took out a card which had "Battle" written on it in big red letters. "Today's lesson will pull no punches." "Fight training," Katsuki said with a maniacal grin. "Real combat?" Izuku asked. "But one of the keys to being a hero is looking good." As All Might dramatically pointed to the left wall, 4 slots opened up to reveal suitcases labeled from 1 to 24. These were designed for you based on your Quirk registration forms and the requests you sent in before school started. The students became excited at the thought of being able to wear their costumes. They could hardly contain it, some even leaping out of their seats. "Costumes," Izuku muttered, recalling the one his mother made for him. "Get yourselves suited up. Then meet me at Training Ground Beta," All Might instructed. "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, over at Class 1B, the students were waiting with anticipation for their own instructor to arrive. "I'm feeling so anxious waiting. What will we be doing today?" Asia fidgeted. No need to get your tail in a twist. I'm sure whatever we're doing won't be that intense," Setsuna reassured. "I'm ready for whatever manly lesson coming our way today," Tetsu declared. Then, the door opened and the instructor walked in. He was a muscular man with spiky, light brown hair, golden eyes, a thin beard, and a scar over his left eye. He wore a black coat with blue patterning over a gray compression shirt, black pants, and a belt. Evening. The name's Rex Azurda, also known as Aegis Hero, gym teacher. And today, you'll be taking part in some good old sparring sessions. Sparring, huh? Toguru smirked excitedly. Sir, is the other class doing the same thing? Monoma asked. They will tomorrow. Right now, they're having battle trials with All Might. And before you say anything, this was decided randomly through draws, so don't go accusing us of playing favorites or blaming Class A, Blade said. And of course, you'll get to have him as your teacher tomorrow while Class A will be with me. That seems fair. Understood, sir, Monoma responded somewhat hesitantly. Good. Now, get your gym uniforms and let's meet in the fields. I'll explain more when we're there. After a few minutes, Class 1B was out in the fields, right where Class 1A had their Quirk assessment test. Okay, looks like everyone's here. Now let me explain how this will go. Blades then turned to the large ring behind him. It'll be a one-on-one fight inside that ring. Immobilize your opponents, make them surrender, or throw them out, whichever you choose. But the most important thing is that quirks are forbidden. The purpose of this training is to focus on your own natural physical abilities rather than what you can do with your quirks. There may be a time when your quirk becomes unreliable due to situations where using your quirks can be detrimental or facing an opponent whose quirk can counter yours. Plus, for those who fight melee style, you can figure out ways to improve your skills. So, he then pulled out a small box. Let's draw numbers to pair you guys up. Meanwhile, at Training Ground Beta, All Might waited for the students to arrive. He didn't have to wait for much longer before the first few students walked in, followed by the rest, dressed in their brand new costumes. Some were flashy and attention-grabbing. Others leaned more to the practical and simple side. Before enrolling at UA, the students submitted quirk registration forms, along with physical measurements and desired costume designs, which were then designed into costumes by exclusive clothing companies designated by the school. They say that clothes make the pros, young ladies and gentlemen. And behold, you are the proof. Take this to heart. From now on, you are all heroes in training. All Might address the students. This is getting me all ramped up. You all look so cool. Now, shall we get started, ya bunch of newbies? All Might then noticed one student among them whose costume caught his attention. It was Izuku. His costume was a light green full-body jumpsuit with a red belt, black elbow and knee pads, white gloves, and his usual red shoes. He had a mask with 2 protrusions and a respirator that resembled smiling teeth. All Might easily figured out that those 2 features were supposed to look like his signature bangs and smile. That kid's so obvious. All Might turned his face away while covering his mouth to prevent himself from laughing out loud. Hey, Deku, Ochako called. Uraraka, Izuku replied back, only to suddenly erupt into a faint blush. I love your costume. Not too flashy, you know? Ochako's costume consisted of a mostly black bodysuit with a pale pink design down the middle of her torso with 2 black circles on her chest. She also wore a pale pink belt, spherical wrist guards that had a dark pink handle each, knee-high boots with magenta soles, and lastly, a helmet with a tinted visor. The skin-tight nature of the costume really emphasized her curves. I should have been more specific about what I wanted. This bodysuit is skin-tight, not really my style. Hey, Midoriya, Mina's voice called out as she and Ijiro approached Izuku and Ochako. Oh hey, Kirishima, Ashi, Izuku's voice got cut short at seeing Mina's costume. It mainly consisted of a turquoise and purple camo bodysuit that went halfway above her melons, showing some cleavage. Over this was an unbuttoned cropped, sleeveless tan-colored waistcoat with white fur along its collar. She wore a plain white mask over her eyes and plum violet and beige acid-proof boots with holes in the soles, allowing her to secrete acid from her feet to slide around. What do you think? Screams me, doesn't it? Mina asked. Yeah, it's something, Izuku awkwardly replied, trying to hide his growing blush. Well, what about mine? Isn't it manly? Ijiro was shirtless and wore baggy black pants with a red half cape with a ripped hem, along with a belt that had an R set into its center. There was a jagged sash going from his left shoulder down to his right hip. He also wore 2 dark red gear-shaped shoulder pads and dark red boots with thick rings around his calves. Lastly, on his face, a black face guard reached from just above his hairline to below his jaw, an extra piece going over the bridge of his nose, and some spiked pieces around his mouth that resembled little fangs. Overall, he looked somewhat like an oni. "Oh yeah, it looks manly for sure," Ochako replied. "Hey, great costumes, you guys!" Tamo's voice caused the 4 to turn to see her and Momo walking up to them. Izuku's face went completely red at the sight, specifically Momo. Tamo wore a bodysuit that was pale blue in front and dark blue at the back, with elbow-length sleeves and short pant legs that went midway down her thighs. There were black markings on her chest and pelvis that resembled a bikini. She had on black gloves and boots, along with dark blue circular elbow guards. Momo's costume was a sleeveless crimson leotard with a silver trim. It exposed a lot of skin at the front, from her neck area down to her belly button. She sported calf-length crimson boots with heels, which dipped sharply down in the center, and 2 gold utility belts around her waist, along with a smaller one wrapped below her shoulders. "Wow, girl, that costume's a pretty bold one," Mina said to Momo, checking out how much her costume showed off. "Well, it wasn't exactly my first choice," Momo said, slightly embarrassed. "To make use of my quirk, I need exposed skin." Nearby, Minta turned around and made a thumbs up. "I love this school." "Now that you're ready, it's time for combat training," All Might announced, getting everyone's attention. "Sir," Tenya raised his hand. "This is the fake city from our entrance exam. Does that mean that we'll be conducting urban battles again?" "Not quite," All Might replied, holding up 2 fingers. "I'm going to move you 2 steps ahead. Most of the villain fights you see on the news take place outside. However, statistically speaking, run-ins with the most dastardly evildoers take place indoors. Think about it. Backroom deals, home invasions, secret underground lairs. Truly intelligent criminals stay hidden in the shadows. For this trainee exercise, you will be split into teams of good guys and bad guys, and fight 2-on-2 indoor battles." Tsuyu was quick to voice her thoughts. "Isn't this a little advanced?" "The best training is what you get on the battlefield," All Might explained. "But remember, you can't just punch a robot this time. You're dealing with actual people now." "Sir, will you be the one deciding who wins?" Momo questioned, getting right to the point. "How much can we hurt the other teams?" Katsuki asked with a scowl. "Do we need to worry about the losers getting expelled like earlier?" Ochako asked nervously. "Will you be splitting us up based on chance or comparative skill?" Tenya inquired, bringing up a good point. "Isn't this Cape Tres chic?" Yuga asked a completely irrelevant question. "I wasn't finished talking," All Might groaned. He then took out a pamphlet. "Listen up." "A script," Izuku noted. "So he needs a cheat sheet?" D-Drag asked, amused, which Izuku chose to ignore. "The situation is this. The villains have hidden a nuclear missile somewhere in their hideout. The heroes must try to foil their plans. To do that, the good guys either have to catch the evildoers or recover the weapon. Likewise, the bad guys succeed if they protect their payload or capture the heroes." "Sounds like a classic action movie setup," Izuku compared. "Time's limited, and we'll choose teams by drawing lots." Tenya was skeptical about using this method. "Isn't there a better way?" "Think about it. Pros often have to team up with heroes from other agencies on the spot," Izuku spoke up. "So maybe that's the reason why we're seeing that here." "Yes, I see. Life is a random series of events," Tenya conceded before bowing to All Might. "Excuse my rudeness." "No sweat. Let's draw," All Might brushed it aside. Soon, the class of 24 was split into 12 teams of 2. Team A, Izukumidoriya and Ochako Uraraka. Team B, Shototodoroki and Mizo Shoji. Team C, Momo Hanakai and Hilda Shirakabe. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Team E, Danny Fenton and Hanta Siro. Team F, Yuga Aoyama and Koji Koda. Team G, Mina Ashido and Denki Kaminari. Team H, Ethel Jinzen and Tsuyu Usui. Team I, Mashirao Ajiro and Toru Hagakure. Team J, Ijiro Kirishima and Minoru Mainta. Team K, Kyoka Jiro and Tomo Meguri. Team L, Fumikage Takoyami and Rikido Sato. "It's not fair. There's 10 babes in this class and I didn't get paired with any of them, Mineta hissed. Wow, what are the chances? We're a team, Ochako excitedly said to her partner. Yeah, totally. Izuku tried sounding excited while hiding his bashfulness. I declare that the first teams to fight will be, All Might said as he reached into 2 boxes labeled Hero and Villain. These guys, he pulled out balls labeled A and D respectively. Team A will be the heroes, Team D will be the villains. Everyone else can head to the monitoring room to watch. Yes, sir. The class minus teams A and D responded before making their way to said room. Izuku's eyes wandered over to Katsuki, who had a nasty scowl directed at him. Izuku, however, clenched his fist and returned a defiant frown, to Katsuki's surprise before he scowled harder. All Might then led the 2 teams to a designated building where their battle would take place. Bad guys, you can go on in and get set up. In 5 minutes, the good guys will be let loose and the battle will start, All Might instructed Team D. Young Ida, young Bakugo, the key to being successful in this challenge is to embody villainy. Think from the perspective of an evildoer. Got it, Tenya responded as he started heading in. Before entering the building, Katsuki turned to look at Izuku one last time, gritting his teeth. If things go too far, I'll step in. Understood, Tenya said. Even though this is training, it pains me to be aligned with criminal behavior, Tenya said as he inspected the bomb. So this is the weapon we must protect. He then gave a few poundings, and the hollow thunks it made revealed it was empty inside. Fake, of course. Hey, Katsuki said, getting his teammates' attention. Do you really think Deku has a quirk? You saw what he did during the assessment test. He even managed to get 3rd place doing so, Tenya replied, making Katsuki angry. Why is it that you seem to be especially angry when it comes to Midoriya? Was he seriously just tricking me all these years? Rage started building up inside Katsuki. I'm gonna roast that damn nerd today. Outside, Izuku and Ochako were looking over a pamphlet that had the building layouts. You think they expect us to memorize this building's floor plan? It's so big, Ochako commented. You know All Might's just as cool in person as he is on television. I'm glad he's not threatening us with some kind of punishment like Mr. Aizawa. We can relax. However, Izuku was too focused on trying to formulate a plan to hear what she said. I'm sorry, I kinda didn't catch that, Izuku admitted. We're up against Kaken. Plus, there's Ida too. We should be on our guard, who knows what they'll pull. Oh right, Bakugo. He's the one always making fun of you, Ochako said somberly. And he's amazing, Izuku began. He can be a real pain, sure, but his strength and confidence and his ambition. Not to mention his quirk. But that just means I have to do better. He then put on his respirator with a determined look. I refuse to lose today. Ochako saw the fire in Izuku's eyes and smiled. So it's a fated battle between rivals. Oh, not that I'm trying to get you wrapped up in my fight or anything, Izuku muttered. Are you kidding? We're a team. Let's win this, Ochako said while raising a fist into the air. Seeing Ochako's positive energy, Izuku smiled back. All right, let's begin the indoor combat training, All Might's voice came over the loudspeaker. Team A and Team D, your time starts now. In the monitoring room, All Might and the rest of the class had their eyes on the giant screen, displaying various locations inside and outside the building. Pay attention, kids. Think about what you would do, All Might instructed. He then put on an earpiece to talk and listen to the current participants. Izuku and Ochako snuck into the building through a window. Just like that, we're in, Ochako whispered. Careful. There are a lot of blind spots, Izuku warned. The duo looked around, wandering the halls in search of the weapon. Then they eventually came across a corner before a dark hallway. When it seemed the coast was clear, they proceeded ahead, keeping their eyes wide open just in case. Then, just when they passed another corner, Katsuki jumped out in an ambush, an explosion ready in his hand. Izuku quickly pulled Ochako to the side as Katsuki set off the explosion. Uraraka, you okay? He had lost half of his mask thanks to that explosion. I'm fine. Thanks, Ochako replied. Then she noticed Izuku's ruined mask. Deku. It's just my mask, he reassured. Then, from the smoke, Katsuki wiped the smoke away, standing with a menacing frown. What's the matter, Deku? Afraid to stand up to fight me? I knew you'd come at me first. I figured you'd try to catch me by surprise, Izuku replied as he got back up on his feet. He almost got the jump on him, Mineta commented. Sneak attack, Bakugo? What kind of man pulls cheap crap like that? Ijiro asked while punching the palm of his hand. It's a viable strategy, All Might countered. He's playing the part, acting like a true villain would. It didn't work. Midoriya dodged it. Mina pumped her fists in excitement. Look, there he goes, Denki exclaimed, bringing everyone's attention back to the screen. I won't hurt you so bad they'll have to stop the fight. Just close. Katsuki raised his fist back for a right hook as he rushed at Izuku. However, Izuku managed to intercept it and grabbed Katsuki's arm. Then Izuku twisted his body to the side to flip Katsuki over his shoulder and slammed him onto the floor on his back. Kaken, you always use a big right hook to start a fight, Izuku said. I know because I've watched you for years. I analyzed every amazing hero, even you. I wanted to learn everything I could about them. It was all in the notebook you burned and threw away. He's referring to hero analysis for the future No. 13, which Kaken had once gotten his hands on. You can call me Deku, but I'm not the same helpless, defenseless kid anymore. You hear me? I've changed. Izuku then summoned his boosted gear. From now on, Deku is the name of a hero. Hearing this, Ochako recalled the words she said to him yesterday. But you know what? I like Deku. It could make a great hero name. Plus, I think it sounds kinda cute. Katsuki then got up before lighting a few small explosions in his hands as he scowled at Izuku. Deku, the face he saw was different from back when they were children. Now the damn nerd's face was full of defiance. You want to fight? Then fine, I'll destroy you, Deku. Then suddenly, Tenya's voice came through Katsuki's earpiece. Bakugo, come in, give me a status report. Where are you? Just shut up and defend the weapon. I've got more important things to worry about. Tenya was not pleased with that response. Are you forgetting what our mission is? No response. Hello? He hung up on me. This isn't the time for radio silence. We're supposed to be partners. Ugh. Back with the rest of the class, all they saw was Bakugo talking inaudibly as he stood facing Midoriya. Hey, who is Bakugo talking to? Ijiro asked. I'm not hearing anything. Can we get any sound with this video? He's got a radio in his ear, so he can talk with his partner, All Might explained as he revealed his own. I gave it to him before the match started, along with a map of the building. Also, this. He then pulled out a roll of white tape. A roll of capture tape. Wrapping this around your opponent means that you've apprehended them, and they're out for the rest of the game. So there's a 15-minute time limit, and the good guys have no idea what floor the nuclear weapon is hidden on, right? Mina pondered. Correct, All Might confirmed. Then the heroes are clearly at a disadvantage here, a big one. Real pros have to outwit villains on a daily basis. That's life, All Might explained. Even when the odds aren't in our favor, we fight. The students were filled with awe at All Might's inspirational words. All together, All Might began. Let's hear a plus ultra, All Might and the students all said at once. Monsieur, Yuga spoke up. He is on the move. Hearing this, All Might turned his attention back to the screen. Katsuki pulled his arm back to ready another explosion. Seeing this, Izuku called out to his partner. Uraraka, go. As Katsuki shot himself toward Izuku with an explosion, Ochako ran off, leaving Izuku behind. As Katsuki got in close, he threw a kick at the side of Izuku's head, who blocked it using his arms. Ballsy move, think you can take me alone? But then, Katsuki felt something around his leg as he noticed what Izuku was currently doing. He's using the capture tape. Izuku thought back to one of his previous hero notebooks, which had an entry on Eraserhead, whose move Izuku was emulating thanks to having seen him in action the day before. What will Kaken do now? Knowing him, he'll be impatient and try another big punch. Then, Katsuki did exactly as Izuku anticipated, and the latter leaped to the side to dodge the explosive attack. I was right. Boost! After powering himself up, Izuku then countered Katsuki with a punch of his own, striking him in the gut and causing him to cringe in pain. The little guy's really good, Rikito said in amazement. He almost got him out right then and there, Hanta added. Not surprising. Considering how quickly he reacted during the entrance exam, All Might thought back to when Izuku acted to save Ochako from the zero-pointer. Katsuki quickly recovered from that blow as Izuku held his guard up. He kicked first this time. He's switching things up so I can't predict his moves. Does that mean he's worried? No time to worry about that now. Dragon Shot, Izuku fired a bright green energy ball at Katsuki, who proceeded to retaliate with one of his explosions, causing a smokescreen. As Katsuki swiped the smoke and dust away, he noticed Izuku flying above him on his wings, shooting him a glance before flying off, leaving Katsuki behind. "Get back here, Deku," Katsuki demanded as he ran after Izuku. "It'll be harder to fight him at close range now. I need some time to come up with another plan," Izuku mentally said. Katsuki went all over the building looking for Izuku, and the more he looked without finding Deku, the angrier he got. "Damn it, you were tricking me for years by acting weak, and you've been laughing behind my back, huh?" He was so loud that Izuku could still audibly hear it as he ran. "So where's that flashy power of yours now?" This caused Izuku to cringe. "Is that what he thinks?" D-Drag questioned. "Let's see how it compares to mine." Katsuki started lighting mini explosions in his hands. "Quirk or no, you'll never beat me, Deku." "That guy has some real anger issues, it's kinda scary," Denki commented. "I can tell young Bakugo thinks highly of himself, but this level of pride is something else. It may end up being his demise," All Might noted as he observed Katsuki's single-minded fixation to find Izuku. Izuku, meanwhile, was looking out for Katsuki. His plan was working well so far as by making Kaken focus on him, he probably forgot about Uraraka. He could trust her to find the weapon. Now it was a matter of getting back to her so they could secure the weapon. However, the sounds of explosions reminded him that Kaken was a major obstacle. If Izuku went after the weapon now, Kaken would follow him, and if he and Uraraka tried to take him on together, that would have wasted time. So the best course of action now was to capture Kaken and then meet up with his partner so that they could team up for a 2-on-1 fight against Ida. He would be on his own, but he should be good as long as he didn't get too close to Kaken's hands. No pressure. Meanwhile, Ochako found the weapon, and Tenya, who was keeping an eye on it, found it. "Now I just have to tell Deku, and try my best to stay out of sight until he gets up here." She was about to radio him until she overheard Tenya talking to himself. "Bakugo definitely has a villainous side, and that's exactly what we need to succeed in this mission," he stated. I need to temporarily devote myself to criminal intent. Yes, I won't fail this trial and risk bringing shame down on the Ida family name. That means I must now embrace evil to become a hero." With that oxymoronic realization in mind, Tenya gave his best villain impression. "Behold, I am the personification of villainy." Ochako actually found this pretty funny and let out a small laugh. He's so serious. Unfortunately, it was still big enough to give herself away. "Uraraka, is that you?" Tenya questioned, making his voice sound like one of those criminal masterminds. Realizing that she was busted, Ochako sheepishly stepped out into the open. "I knew you would come here alone, the instant that Bakugo ran off by himself and engaged with Midoriya," Tenya monologued. "Your quirk allows you to float anything that you touch. But I've prepared for that by hiding every object in this room, so you have nothing to use against me, do-gooder," he said, presenting the room which was completely devoid of all objects other than the weapon. "My dastardly tricks have rendered you helpless," he continued monologuing to Ochako, who was just frozen in place by pure confusion. "You've blundered, hero, mwahaha." "He really is playing the part," Ochako mumbled to herself. In the monitoring room, the class was currently paying attention to Ochako and Tenya. Without sound for context, it looked like Ochako somehow gave herself away and Tenya was acting like a madman. "Is Ida okay? He looks like he's gone crazy," Tomo commented. "Not to worry, young Meguri. Young Ida's simply playing the part of a diabolical mastermind, and quite theatrically at that," All Might reassured. "Then what happened with Ochako?" Danny asked. "Well, it seems she found Ida's performance so hilarious that she couldn't help herself," All Might said. Izuku was currently watching out for Katsuki when Ochako radioed him. Deku? I'm here. How's it going?" Izuku replied. "Ida knows that I'm here, Sorry, right now he's monologuing. As she said this, Tenya continued his evil laugh while calling himself a mastermind. Where are you? Izuku asked. Near the middle of the 5th floor. Ochako responded. Right above me. Izuku realized, looking up. We probably don't have much time left now. We have to finish this fast or they win. Then, he held the capture tape tightly in his hands. I won't give up yet. I can capture Kaken. I won't lose. Unfortunately, Katsuki had found him first. I'm all loaded up, he said with one of his grenade gauntlets flashing red. What does that mean? Izuku asked. Why aren't you using your fancy quirk? Don't tell me you're underestimating me, Deku, Katsuki goaded. The sinister smile on his face hinted that he had something planned. Get over here and show me what you're really made of. With the capture tape in hand, Izuku turned and faced his opponent, ready for round 2. Kaken, I'm not scared of you anymore. Katsuki started getting angry, but he managed to calm himself down and his grimace changed into a grin. Since you're such a stalker, by now you probably know how my quirk, explosion, works. I secrete nitroglycerin like sweat from my hands and make it blow up. Imagine what I could do if I had a lot of it. He continued speaking, as he pulled the giant pin on his gauntlet to reveal a smaller pin, gearing himself up for something big. That's right. These gauntlets aren't just for show. They've been storing up my sweat inside for one monster blast. He put his finger on the pin and aimed at Izuku with a look to kill. No, he's going too far. All Might also realized what Katsuki was going to do. Young Bakugo, don't do it. You'll kill Ham. He'll be fine as long as he dodges, Katsuki shouted, making it sound like it was no big deal. He's lost it. Katsuki let it rip, causing a trail of explosions, almost as big as the entire hallway, to shoot toward Izuku, who could only brace himself for impact. Kaboom! The entire building shook from the explosion, catching the two upstairs by surprise. Even the rest of the class could feel the force of the blast all the way from the monitoring room. Whoa, this is nuts, Ijiro shouted. Hey, Midori is okay, right? Mina asked. Come in, All Might said into the mic. Come in, Midoriya. Bakugo, answer me. Tenya was trying to contact Katsuki. What is going on down there? Did you cause that blast? While Tenya was preoccupied, Ochako saw her chance to go for the bomb. However, Tenya noticed her running and ran to stop her. Not so fast, hero. Ochako used her quirk on herself and jumped over Tenya, floating straight towards the bomb. I just have to touch the weapon. In one move, this will all be over. She then deactivated her quirk to let herself fall toward the weapon. However, Tenya activated his engines to speed toward the payload to grab and move it to another spot before Ochako could lay her fingers on it, causing her to roll into a wall, losing her headgear in the process. Admirable attempt, Tenya acknowledged. But your quirk is no threat if you can't touch anything. I can easily keep this weapon out of your reach until time runs out. Mwahahaha. Ochako looked a bit sick, but she was still determined to continue the attempt, despite being at a complete disadvantage. It's not over. I won't let Deku down. From the smoke, Katsuki walked out chuckling like a madman. These are awesome. The more nitro sweat that's stored in these gauntlets, the stronger the explosion is. The other one then flashed red, meaning that it was charged up as well. Where are you, Deku? Don't tell me you've given up already? No response. He looked around for the green-haired boy to no avail. Where are you, Deku? Show yourself. I'm right here. Kaken Izuku's voice came from above as he flew down to deliver a punch, sending Katsuki flying into a wall. Izuku's mask had been completely burnt away and his right sleeve was reduced to elbow length. In addition, his wings also had some burn marks on them. Smart move using your wings to shield yourself from that blast. His explosions could give Riser's queen a run for her money. My thoughts exactly. Bakugo, use that stored up power again and I'll stop this fight. Your team will lose. Huh? Katsuki responded in indignation. To employ such a strong attack indoors is inviting the destruction of the stronghold you should be protecting. That's a poor strategy, whether you're a hero or a villain. The penalty will be a massive loss of points. Katsuki, frustrated by this new restriction placed on him, decided to take it out on the nerd in front of him, who was ignoring him, infuriating him even further. Fine then, we'll fight hand to hand, He then used his explosions to launch himself at Izuku while pulling his arm back. Izuku, who was communicating with Ochako, was a little too slow to notice Katsuki and accidentally stepped on an unstable part of the floor, leaving him a sitting duck. It's no good, I can't dodge this, however. He was far from defenseless as he clenched his fist tight. I'll have to counterattack. Katsuki noticed this, and right as Izuku swung his arm forward, he set off an explosion to fake out Izuku with a smokescreen and blast himself above him, and then set off a second explosion to stop his momentum. He then primed a third explosion to hit Izuku, but the latter managed to react in time to avoid it. Izuku then fired a dragon shot at Katsuki, who once again used his explosions to propel himself out of the attack's path. Nice one, Midoriya, Mina cheered. Bakugo's pretty good too, Ojiro added. He doesn't come off as a guy with a strategy, but he's actually quite intelligent, Shoto observed. What are you talking about? Ijiro asked. He changed his trajectory while in midair using a blast that doubled as a smokescreen. Very clever, even if his opponent managed to dodge it. A feint attack like that requires an extreme amount of precision. He had to calculate the physics and demonstrate control over his quirk, Momo added. And as for Midoriya, the fact that he managed to dodge Bakugo's attack shows how sharp his reflexes are. Dang, that's impressive, Tomo said. Ugh, they're both uber talented. I hate it, Denki groaned in slight jealousy. Katsuki aimed another right hook at Izuku, who managed to catch Katsuki's arm. But the explosive blonde wasn't finished as he set off an explosion, slightly burning the green dragon boy. Katsuki then threw a kick at Izuku's side, but then the boosted gear glowed again. Boost! Izuku, with his power boosted, retaliated against Katsuki with a punch to the jaw. I told you, I'm no longer defenseless. I'm the Deku who will be a hero. Katsuki backed up a bit to regain his senses as that blow to the jaw had left his vision wobbly. How'd he suddenly get stronger? Is it because of that red arm thing of his? Damn it, that nerd. Was he seriously hiding that from me all these years? You've been hiding your true power for years. What's the deal, Deku? Did you think you were better than me this entire time? That's what you think? Izuku asked as he recalled the moments during their childhood when Kaken did amazing things. You idiot. You've always been stronger. Kaken, I know that you're better than me. Can't you see? That's why I want to beat you, 'cause you're amazing. Izuku's response did nothing to calm Katsuki's rage as he opened up his fists. You're even more of an idiot than I realized. Come at me. Ready to end the fight right then and there. Both combatants rushed at each other, Katsuki blasting himself forward with his explosions, and Izuku flying with his wings. Katsuki threw his left arm forward, primed for an explosive punch. Go to hell! Katsuki's punch was a direct hit, engulfing Izuku in an explosion. However, Izuku used his wings and the boosted gear on his left arm to take the brunt of the heat, and while he still felt the searing heat of the blast, he was in position for his own attack. Explosion! Dragon! Smash! Izuku threw a right hook forward, unleashing all the power he had charged up in one single blow, right into Katsuki's stomach. The force of the blow sent him flying into a pillar. As he lay limp on the floor, Katsuki tried to get up, but the pain in his stomach caused his legs to give out before he could even fully stand. It didn't just end there as he felt the urge to hurl, doing so just a second later. He tried to get up again, but then he felt a familiar feeling of something being wrapped around him. It was Izuku with the capture tape. Unlike before, he was too incapacitated to try and get out of the snare as Izuku towered over him, casting a shadow over his form. I win, Kaken. I beat you. Bakugo is captured. He is out for the rest of the exercise. All Might announced. Those 12 words struck a chord in Katsuki's mind. He lost. He lost to Deku. How is that possible? Several questions and memories ran through his mind. From Deku having a quirk that he's been hiding all this time, to what he said to him after they were both accepted into the hero course, and even the weak Deku he knew back when they were just children. It doesn't make sense, Katsuki whispered mostly to himself. Is Deku stronger than me? That can't be possible. And yet, here he was on the ground while Deku was still standing. He was just humiliated in front of the whole class by Deku. Meanwhile, the class was amazed at Izuku's takedown of Katsuki. Man, those last blows were insane, Hanta commented. Midoriya actually took Bakugo's attack head-on to get close enough for that big attack. Ribbit, Tsuyu observed. A bold move, as there was a risk he would fall to the blast. But it seems fate was in his favor, Fumigage added. Yeah, but now there's barely any time left. So it might just end up being for nothing, Mineta pointed out. Indeed, the timer just reached below the minute mark, counting down 59 seconds, and so on. Meanwhile, Izuku left the defeated Katsuki behind as he still had to join up with Uraraka and retrieve the bomb from Ida. I've gotta hurry. Who knows how much time's left? You have 50 seconds remaining, young Midoriya. All Might informed him through the earpiece. 50 seconds, Izuku shouted. He was still on the second floor. There was no way he would make it in time to the 5th floor where the bomb was, even if he flew. But wait. He recalled Ochako saying that she was in the middle of the 5th floor, and he was still close to the middle of his floor. He looked at the boosted gear on his left arm and had a plan, one that just might be crazy enough to work. Ochako received Izuku's instructions through their communicator and braced herself as she backed off from Tenya and moved toward a pillar by the windows, holding onto it, to Tenya's confusion. Dragon shot. After charging up a boost once, Izuku fired a dragon shot toward the ceiling. The green energy blast blew apart the ceiling, and it didn't stop there as it continued onto the next floor without signs of stopping, eventually coming out through the roof. Tenya braced himself as he held onto the fake bomb to prevent himself from being blown away by the shockwave. Then he turned to see the center of the room completely destroyed with multiple debris lifted into the air. What's happening? Ochako then used her quirk on the pillar she was holding onto to make it weightless as she held it up. This is it. Sorry, Ida. Improvised special move, the Comet Home Run. Ochako swung the pillar like a baseball bat, sending the midair debris flying toward Tenya. In the name of villainy, I demand that you stop this. Tenya held his arms up to shield himself from the flying debris, but Ochako was able to use that to fly past him. Release! Ochako cancelled her quirk. Tenya barely had time to look up before Ochako made contact with the missile, securing the win for the hero team. I got it. She breathed a sigh of relief. Ga! Nuo! The weapon! Tenya exclaimed in horror. The hero team wins, All Might declared. Back with Izuku, he was relieved to hear that as his gambit paid off, looking down at his left arm. As for Katsuki, his mind was still on his defeat against Deku. Truthfully, even if his team managed to win, he would never consider it a real victory, especially not when it meant relying on a technicality from time running out. Either way, his ego had been dealt quite a blow. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 6. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Pleiades 1754 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.